him. But Celia demands absolute honesty. Gathering his courage, he shakes his head, admitting that Cecilia has already rejected him once. Yoki. But then, he spots the gorgeous support mage and completely loses. Explains he is grinding hard to build a stable adventurer life, so he can propose properly. Celia asks if he is tossing away this golden ticket, but Yoki insists on respecting Cecilia's true feelings. Hearing this, Celia smiles warmly. She was merely testing his true intentions, refusing to hand her beloved daughter over to some desperate, greedy creep. She officially approves of Yoki, granting him full permission to visit their home anytime. Later, Cecilia nervously hints that her mother seems to really like him, though still slightly terrified. Yoki cherishes this golden opportunity. He then shyly asks to use her first name, and she happily agrees, saying his name in return. Overjoyed, Yoki pumps his fist, focus over her breathtaking beauty. Later, he tosses the heroes into a dungeon, finally stepping closer to the love of his life. The very next day, Yoki tracks a wild cockatrice for a quest, effortlessly dodging its deadly lasers. As Yoki dances around the attacks, the furious monster wildly charges right at him. Waiting for the perfect moment, Yoki unleashes a fresh, massive thunderbolt spell, instantly deep-frying the giant bird. Afterward, he casually harvests every single feather to clear the quest. But suddenly, a menacing Dullahan crashes the party, followed instantly by a fierce harpy, swooping down for the kill. Another mysterious figure joins the brutal ambush, forcing Yoki to halt the madness and remind the deadly trio that he is actually their former Dark Master. Realizing it's Yoki in disguise, Duke, Cell. There, Yoki's demonic grunts eagerly ask if they should execute, asks why he vanished after the Demon Lord's death. The others echo the burning question, so Yoki finally reveals the truth behind his disappearance. First, he proudly announces his epic confession of love to Cecilia and how he got instantly rejected. Then, Yoki drops the ultimate plot twist. He is now living life as a lowly human adventurer. This shocking revelation stuns his former minions. Yoki warmly sets them free to live without him, but absolute loyalty holds them back. They refuse to abandon him, dying to see the legendary girl who changed their master's fate. Yoki firmly refuses to let them tag along, warning the powerful demons that living among humans requires flawlessly maintained, exhausting disguises. Yet, these devoted demons, startled by his minions, Yoki panics as the guards start calling, refuse to back down. Overwhelmed by their loyalty, Yoki finally lets them join. With a swift wave, Yoki conceals their demonic traits, but the moment Cecilia realizes, he plucked every single feather off the poor harpy. Her fury completely boils over. She thoroughly scolds his dense behavior. Realizing his massive blunder, Yoki quickly bows in apology, while his demonic crew relishes his absolute misery. Soon, Cecilia guides everyone inside for some soothing tea. She watches in absolute awe as the three demons maintain such flawless human illusions. Duke proudly reveals his secret, stating he literally grafted his head onto knightly armor. Meanwhile, Seek the Pixie and Happiness, Harpy hid their mythical traits to blend perfectly into human society. Duke then casually drops a bombshell on Cecilia. Yoki is the sole reason their squad remains, him out for blatantly staring at the sleeping Cecilia. Finally, Yoki sighs. So wonderfully laid back at the Dark Fortress, Demon Lord Zickel desperately tried to make Yoki work. Tragically for him, Yoki fiercely defended his ultimate shut-in lifestyle, leaving the mighty ruler tearing his hair out. Back then, Duke confidently thought punishing Yoki was a brilliant plan, only to get his own head blasted off. Since that legendary thrashing, he pledged absolute loyalty to Yoki. Cecilia suddenly understands the profound reverence these monsters hold for him. Suddenly, panic strikes Yoki the other. Two demons have mysteriously vanished. Risking exposure in human territory is strictly forbidden. So, the crew desperately scrambles to hunt down the troublemakers. Searching through the grand mansion gardens, they spot Seek peacefully snoozing on Celia's lap. Yoki immediately begs forgiveness for his tiny comrade's intrusion, but the sweet girl gently waves fortress with his loyal guild, right before breaching the massive gates, ordering them to dump the heroes near a village. Painfully bidding farewell, off his worries, she reveals how she trailed behind the energetic pixie as he playfully wandered around, until the little guy completely burned out and crashed into dreamland. Relieved, Yoki nods, but wait, where did Happiness go? She was right behind Seek. Celia drops the plot twist. Head maid Sophia discovered happiness and dragged her away. For strict maid boot camp, the group storms inside, demanding why Sophia seemingly kidnapped their clueless companion. Upon realizing this, Harpy actually belongs to Yoki's crew. Sophia sheepishly confesses her mix-up. She was expecting a new hire and blindly assumed happiness was the rookie. Yoki bows again, apologizing for the massive misunderstanding, and politely asks Happiness to ditch the frilly uniform. But in a shocking twist, the Harpy flat out refuses. She spins towards Sophia, begging to keep the maid gig, dropping everyone's jaws to his angelic crush. 1 month later, the Demon Lord suddenly summons Yoki and Teal to the floor. Everyone happily cheers for her new job. Before the squad departs, Celia sweetly invites the demons to drop by any time. Then, she slyly corners Yoki. She whispers a golden secret. Cecilia has a rare day. Off approaching, practically demanding he ask her on a date. Thrilled, Yoki enthusiastically accepts this highly approved romantic mission. The very next morning, he nervously stands by the rendezvous point. Right on cue, a gorgeous carriage rolls to a halt, and Cecilia steps out rocking a stunningly cute disguise. Yoki is instantly paralyzed, staring in absolute awe as she tilts her head. He admits her cute glasses totally stole his breath away. Flustered, she whispers that staying incognito is absolutely vital, since her famous face attracts crowds. She shyly apologizes for dragging Yoki into his throne room. Zakiel, the right-hand man, asks Yoki how often he has fought this secrecy, but he flashes a confident smile, vowing to forge the most unforgettable date imaginable. Hearts racing, the duo happily explores the vibrant city streets. During their romantic stroll, a charming bakery catches Cecilia's sparkling eyes, securing a mental bookmark for future tea time. Soon, she is captivated by blooming shop flowers, but Yoki silently swears no petal could ever rival her radiant beauty. Leaving the floral shop, Cecilia discovers an alley cat, gently petting it while mimicking its utterly adorable meows sounds. Yoki swiftly turns his gaze away, fighting the fierce temptation. Soon, they stroll into a chic boutique, where Yoki helps pick out a stunning crimson dress. Touched, Cecilia thanks Yoki, saying his warm presence melted away her exhausting, stressful, these returning pesky heroes. Yoki casually reveals that they have days. Taken aback, his heart swells with pure joy. Next, he leads her to a nearby jewelry shop. But wait, Yuga is also out on a secret date with Makana. Spotting Cecilia, he loudly calls out, though Makana fiercely hushes him to hide their cover. Yuga struts straight to Cecilia, demanding to know her plans. He boasts that he is touring the city with Makana and demands she join, completely treating Yoki like invisible trash. Cecilia firmly states she is spending the day with Yoki, forcing an annoyed Yuga to accept him. He then shamelessly drags her right into the shop. Meanwhile, Makana fumes over her ruined first date and glares at Yoki. She asks if this is his date, and he bravely nods. Challenged him 13 times already. Zakiel scoffs, calling the heroes a bunch. Smirking, Makana orders him to steal Cecilia's heart so she can claim Yuga's undivided attention. Yoki initially thinks Makana is being a kind ally, but she instantly shatters that illusion. Calling him a pathetic loser, she storms inside, leaving Yoki to dread Yuga's relentless attempts to claim Cecilia despite her rejecting his proposal. Fueled by blazing anger over Yuga's shameless audacity, he charges in, swearing to protect his beloved lady. Inside, Yoki softly asks Cecilia to choose a gift. She worries about the cost, but Yoki insists on making this date unforgettable for to Delaney. Suddenly, Yuga spots their tender moment and aggressively butts in. As the arrogant hero storms off to buy his own gift, Yoki selects a lovely of weaklings who just never learn. The Demon Lord then questions why Yoki necklace. Cecilia's eyes sparkle with absolute joy at the pendant. But soon enough, Yuga returns to ruin the mood. He flaunts the shop's priciest jewel, yet it utterly fails to capture her precious attention. Furious, Yuga rudely snatches off Cecilia's hat to force the jewel on her, instantly exposing her true identity to the entire store. In a mere heartbeat, a massive mob swarms the hero's party, kicking Yoki to the curb like useless trash. The chaotic frenzy floods out the door, sweeping Cecilia away with them. Yoki scrambles up to chase the mob, but bumps into a hero suffocating under a massive fangirl mob. Realizing it is Raven, the fierce swordsman of Yuga's party, Yoki decides to save him, He has not slaughtered the heroes yet, covering his tracks. Yoki claims those, points into the distance, screaming that he spotted the hero. Instantly, all dash. The love-struck girls abandon Raven and sprint away blindly. Once the coast is clear, Yoki drags the handsome knight into a quiet, shadowed alley. Raven remains totally silent, wondering if the knight hates chatting. Yoki turns to leave, but Raven suddenly calls out with a deeply flushed face. Hearing his incredibly soft tone, Yoki realizes this dashing warrior feels ashamed of his speech. Raven nods, quietly asking if his voice lacks manly pride. But Yoki absolutely refuses to mock him, warmly replying that everyone hides a flaw they deeply dislike. Stunned by Yoki's unexpected kindness, Raven watches in awe as he turns to find Cecilia, touched by his gentle soul. Raven, miserable pests are not even worth his time. Amused, the Supreme Demon Lord asks if they can become true friends. Yoki stands totally shocked by the DT5 sudden offer, but Raven freezes up. Luckily, Yoki confidently accepts his challenge, instantly spinning around to track down his missing date. After a frantic search, Yoki starts panicking. Is Cecilia safe alone in this massive city? Meanwhile, Cecilia wanders through the streets, finding a lost little boy. Using her magic to heal his scraped knee, she scans the crowd for his parents. Tears stream down the boy's face, but his loud wailing echoes, grabbing Yoki's attention. Dashing to the rescue, he strikes a dramatic hero pose. Cecilia gasps in shock, quickly scolding him for making such reckless vows. Watching a grown hero get thoroughly lectured, the crying boy bursts into laughter, suggests letting the foot soldiers step in and permanently erase the heroes and his. At Yoki's misery, smiling, the duo teams up to find the missing mother. While walking, Yoki worries she should head home before another massive mob surrounds her, but she fiercely shakes her head. They will crush any crowd that gets in their way. Yoki grins in agreement, but suddenly, Cecilia sneezes. In the blistering heat, elsewhere, the obsessed Yuga frantically hunts for her. Makana begs him to stop, but he violently brushes her off, sprinting away to find Cecilia, left behind. Makana's heart shatters. How could he give her the cold shoulder on their own date? Soon, Yuga's crazy eyes spot Cecilia standing right next to Yoki. He spins around to brag to Makana, but freezes in pure shock when he realizes she completely vanished. The very next morning, Yoki discovers Stead. Panicking internally, Yoki knows his weak grunts would instantly die to the pat. Cecilia collapsed on her way home. Celia explains her daughter caught a brutal fever from pure exhaustion, and Yuga's insane stunt completely drained whatever energy she had left. Celia angrily reveals how Yuga kept forcing his way into their lives, so she ordered Sophia to completely dispose of him. Yoki drops his jaw amid casually tossing a hero, but Sylvia warmly praises Yoki for protecting her precious daughter. She grants him VIP access to Cecilia's private bedroom. Sophia escorts him up, but as she knocks, the young lady panics in sheer embarrassment. A boy in her personal sanctuary, Sophia calmly whispers that the childish teddy bear has been hidden away, absolutely destroying all her aura points. Blushing, Yoki slowly steps inside. They fiercely hype each other up. Suddenly, those heavy iron doors creak open. Hero's immense power, plus, he cannot let his beautiful crush get hurt, so his heart racing in a girl's room. He finds her resting on the bed and nervously sits, plagued by guilt. Yoki confesses it is his fault she fell ill after dragging her around the entire city. Cecilia warmly smiles, but slyly decides to play along, demanding that he must take full responsibility by treating her to an even more legendary date next time. Fired up, Yoki leaps to his feet, boasting, like a valiant knight promising to sweep her off her feet. Watching him proudly yap away, Cecilia bursts into a sweet fit of laughter, but this absolutely enrages Sophia. The fiercely loyal maid barges in, literally throwing Yoki out, roaring that making the patient laugh so hard will worsen her fever. Later, as Yoki walks home rubbing his bruises, he spots Raven marching straight toward the mansion, vows to crush the heroes personally. The Demon Lord grins. Confused, Yoki calls out. Raven blushes, revealing he is about to confess his love. He admits this mystery girl actually praised his soft voice, sparking a deep, romantic attraction. But self-doubt clouds his eyes. Smiling, Yoki quickly pumps him up, declaring that a tall, handsome guy like him cannot possibly fail. Fueled by this massive confidence boost, Raven charges towards Cecilia's massive estate, watching him leave. It suddenly hits Yoki. Wait, who is this lucky girl? Raven's secret crush. But before Yoki realizes the girl Raven intends to pursue is Cecilia, meaning Yoki just created his absolute worst love rival. The second this realization hits, Yoki goes into absolute panic, knowing he completely ruined his chances. He desperately copes, praying Cecilia will instantly reject Raven's feelings, silently allowing Yoki to take charge, walking out of that heavy throne room. But then pure dread sets in. They were former comrades in the hero's party. In Yoki's chaotic, overthinking mind, he imagines Cecilia and Raven sharing romantic moments during their past quests. Fear grips his heart. Could Raven easily steal his dream girl away? Thankfully for our panicked hero, Raven soon returns, looking utterly shattered after a brutal rejection. Confused, Yoki wonders what went wrong. Raven bitterly apologizes for wasting the golden courage Yoki gave him. Defeated, Raven walks away in absolute silence. However, Yoki's mind races. Deeply terrified of Cecilia's reaction, he rushes back to the mansion, summoning Sophia. She immediately narrows her eyes at his sudden return. Yoki plays it cool, like he only cares for Cecilia's health. But Sophia ruthlessly tells him to scram. Yoki sweats nervously for the hero's safety. He is fully aware that, breaking down, he begs Sophia for the truth about Raven's words. She bluntly reveals that Raven actually begged to see happiness. Shocked, Yoki pieces it together. Raven is after a completely different girl. But why on earth did happiness ruthlessly reject him? Burning with curiosity, Yoki confronts happiness about her talk with Raven. Yoki defends his friend's honor. Happiness, visibly stunned by this, softly explains that a romantic future between them is impossible, assuming she absolutely despises the play guy. Yoki is shocked as happiness sadly shakes her head and leaves without a word. That night, Yoki corners Duke and Seek, demanding their honest thoughts on Raven. Both instantly question why Yoki would ever allow a filthy former member of the heroes party near their precious friend. Yoki defensively explains he didn't even set, only his overpowered stats can beat them. Otherwise, those heroes are them up at all. Duke sighs, revealing that happiness is deeply hesitant because of a tragic past. As a stunningly beautiful harpy, her kind was ruthlessly hunted by greedy humans for their bodies and rare feathers. Duke himself rescued happiness from vile traffickers, leading her straight into the Demon Lord's army. Thus, Duke thinks this severe trauma leaves her absolutely terrified of ever getting emotionally entangled with a human again. Yet, Seek firmly disagrees. She can't despise mankind if she willingly works as a maid inside Cecilia's mansion. Yoki quickly agrees with Seek, noting that Raven is genuinely pure-hearted, meaning happiness has zero reason to be terrified of him. The next dawn, Yoki marches straight into the Adventurers Guild, only to notice Clayman is strangely missing in action. A nearby receptionist spots, strong enough to slay the Demon Lord. Trapped by fate, Yoki wonders what to do. Him, asking if he seeks the Vice Guild Master. Confused, Yoki questions who she means. She drops a massive bombshell. Lazy Clayman is the actual Vice Master. Seeing Yoki's dumbfounded face, she heavily agrees that the sluggishly lazy Clayman hardly lives up to such a grand title. Yoki quickly asks why. He is completely absent. Blushing, she mutters that the truth is too humiliating to speak aloud. She whispers that Clayman is hospitalized. Panicking, Yoki dashes off to check on his injured comrade. Stepping into the hospital room, Clayman weakly smiles, thanking him for the caring visit. Glaring at the countless bandages wrapping Clayman like a total mummy, Yoki demands to know what on earth caused this brutal damage. Clayman shakes, admitting his terrifying wife got angry. Next, since world domination is fast approaching, dawn breaks, and those stubborn, leaving Yoki utterly baffled. How did a simple spat cause fatal wounds? Clayman reveals it was his wedding anniversary, but the poor guy agonized endlessly over which perfect gift to buy his wife. Trapped in pure indecision, he wasted hours at the Flowers store. Night quickly fell. The moment Clayman finally stepped inside, his wife assumed he forgot her gift entirely. Driven by pure wrath, she beat him mercilessly. Shocked, Yoki trembles at a raging woman's terrifying power. He finally realizes exactly why. The guild receptionist desperately hid this humiliating disaster. Still stunned, he asks Clayman how his wife got the monstrous strength to rearrange his bones. So, Clayman reveals she was a legendary A-ranked adventurer. He also confesses that he was an A-ranked powerhouse too. Fighting alongside his wife in a party known, heroes storm the castle again. After effortlessly batting away their As the invincible couple, impressed by this legendary past, Yoki offers to heal Clayman, but the man proudly refuses. He insists he would rather recover under his wife's tender care. This hopelessly cheesy romantic attitude makes Yoki cringe in absolute disgust. Suddenly, the door swings open. Seeing her enter, Yoki freezes in shock. Clayman is actually married to Sophia. He instantly jumps up in joy at the sight of his goddess, but she brutally kicks him for daring to call her honey. Sophia then gently bandages Clayman before stepping outside to talk with Yoki. She thanks him for visiting her foolish husband. So Yoki humbly replies, "It's no big deal." Heart racing. He asks how Cecilia is doing. Sophia warmly explains she is doing great. Eagerly, Yoki asks to visit Cecilia, but Sophia quickly reveals that she is swordsman and Yuga. Assault mage McKenna launches a fierce counterattack with her. Currently out on urgent business, swallowing his bitter disappointment, Yoki changes the topic, asking Sophia if girls truly adore receiving presents so much. Sophia instantly realizes her husband spilled the beans. Sweating, Yoki swears he is just asking for genuine romance advice. Sophia nods warmly, revealing a maiden will treasure any gift that carries his true feelings. Feeling inspired, Yoki thanks Sophia for the advice and dashes off. Walking back, he feels intensely envious of Clayman and Sophia's loving marriage. Blushing, Yoki wonders if Cecilia would be a sweet housewife, waiting for him at home, or an unstoppable, outgoing businesswoman who proudly brings the wealth home. Slapping his face, he snaps out of his delusions and walks into Raven's room. Shockingly, he finds the knight collapsed on the bed like a petrified. Explosive magic. Yoki brushes off her first magical barrage. But Makana, statue. Yoki calls out to Raven, but the utterly heartbroken man fails to notice him. From his crushing despair, desperate, Yoki loudly speaks out Happiness's name, which finally snaps Raven to reality. The knight intensely asks exactly how Yoki knows her. So, Yoki calmly reveals they've been friends for a long time. After that, he gently asks Raven how his grand romantic confession to Happiness went. Sighing deeply, Raven explains their fateful encounter. He first met sweet Happiness while patrolling the Percent City. Back then, she was getting brutally harassed by some goons in a dark alley. So, Raven bravely jumped in to protect her, living up to his heroic knight reputation. The cowardly goons quickly fled, relieved. Sweet Happiness gently thanked Raven for protecting Year. Blushing, he gently told her not to worry, but the instant he said it, Raven, as glowing sinister eyes pierce the dark, marching bravely inside, sneakily fires a brutal second wave, catching him off guard. But despite, realize he totally exposed his gentle, soft voice in the heat of the moment. To his shock, Happiness did not laugh. Her eyes sparkled as she warmly complimented his voice. Raven nervously told her that such a soft voice clashed with his fierce knightly looks, but Happiness smiled, believing he was blessed by the heavens to have it, igniting a spark of hope that she might actually like him. He bravely visited her at Cecilia's grand mansion afterward. Yoki happily nods and mentions that he is quite familiar with Lady Cecilia as well. This unexpected connection instantly piques Raven's interest. So Yoki continues on, pouring out his epic romance. Hearing this, Raven ends up admiring Yoki for leaving his realm just to stand beside his true love. Seeing Yoki push his limits to be worthy of Cecilia, Raven feels like a total loser who failed the girl. The trap. Yoki reacts with lightning-fast reflexes to block it, leaving Makana Adoris. Yoki assures him it is not his fault since Happiness is bad at romance. He reveals the dark past trauma of Happiness, which likely made her reject him. Raven curses himself for rushing his bold confession, but Yoki fiercely disagrees. He reassures Raven that hope remains, dragging him to the market for a gift for Happiness. Inside a couple's shop, Raven feels awkward, fearing folks might think they are dating. Yoki brushes it off, buying a stunning necklace for Cecilia. Then, he instantly spots Raven struggling to choose and suggests a dazzling trinket for Happiness. Raven doubts it, but Yoki swears she completely stunned. Amid the chaos, Yoki spots his angel Cecilia healing. Will love it. Raven worries she will reject a gift from a guy she just turned down. Yoki echoes the advice of Sophia, noting the gem fits the style of Happiness perfectly. Raven buys it. As he pays, Makana catches them red-handed and marches over. She roasts the lonely duo for roaming a market with no girls. Yoki proudly boasts they are hunting for epic gifts for the girls they love, before Raven can stop him. He spills it to Makana, who hounds Raven about his crush. He shrinks away. So, Makana feels bad for crossing the line. She apologizes to Raven for mocking his cute voice during their first meeting. The squad, instantly making him blush, playing it cool. He laughs and taunts the. Then, a wicked idea strikes. Craving spicy new gossip, she drags the boys away to interrogate them on their romance. Sadly for her, the boys just ignore her to devour their food. Knowing his weakness, she drops the name of Cecilia. Instantly, Yoki freezes like a total fool. Makana pries into his romantic progress, and Yoki sighs that he is stuck in place. He reveals Cecilia gave him a shot, but endless noble marriage proposals keep swarming her. Makana nods, recalling how Yuga proposed to her too. Yoki smirks that she rejected him. So Makana states, the toxic hero constantly annoy them both, beyond being heroes for their futile attempts to win. But a bruised Yuga refuses to. Massive creep. Yuga let his crazy fangirls run wild. This delayed their daily quests, pushing Cecilia into absolute rage. Ever since, she held a bitter grudge against the reckless nature of Yuga. Makana warns Yoki to tread lightly around Cecilia, or face the blacklist. Yoki nods, so she pivots to grill Raven about his crush, but Yoki blocks her, declaring he will not let an evil vixen taint the pure love of his friend. Offended, Makana snaps that she just wanted to help out. She then admits she needs romance advice too. Raven is stunned, but Makana sighs that asking two clueless fools is useless. Give up. Unleashing a blinding Excalibur strike. Unfortunately for them, Yoki, yet. Raven trusts Yoki with affairs of the heart, so she, ultimately trusting him. Makana admits she is deeply terrified for Yuga, since he began despising her after a specific incident. Before spilling the dark truth, she begs Yoki to swear to absolute secrecy. The moment he agrees, Makana reveals the shocking past. The hero's party was utterly annihilated at the Demon Lord's castle. Feigning total shock, Yoki pretends this is entirely new information. As Makana confesses, they never even reached the Demon Lord himself. Instead, a single demonic soldier continuously crushed them. Each time this demon wiped out the party, he politely dumped them back at a human village. And every time the battered heroes awoke, they lied through their teeth, claiming they effortlessly brushes off their strike. Declaring his absolute supremacy, Yuga merely retreated to gather strength and ensure their safety. While the gullible villagers kept funding their crusade with precious food and resources, the town began bleeding dry as the heroes returned brutally beaten. Every other day, right when the crushing weight of their lies became unbearable, the demons struck a devilish bargain. They could advance, but only if they left Cecilia behind. Desperate, Makana ruthlessly convinced the party to agree, desperate to clear the mission and protect Yuga's reputation. But ever since that fateful day, Yuga despised her for abandoning their precious comrade. Though Yuga never spoke of it again, Makana feels the crushing weight of his silent grudge. Broken, she asks Yoki if he could ever forgive a friend for abandoning a partner, fiercely holds his ground, roaring that they must push past their limits. If, suddenly, Raven steps from the shadows, declaring Makana is not to blame. Startled by Raven's voice, she listens as he takes the heavy burden of guilt, admitting his own cowardly silence back then. Watching the two heroes drown in guilt, Yoki feels the irony. He was the demon who forced that very ultimatum. Hiding his identity, Yoki gently asks if she has ever truly apologized to Cecilia. Makana admits her cowardice, claiming the awkwardness would be too much to bear after so long. Piercing her excuses, Yoki asks if she truly wants their bond to remain broken forever. Struck by his wisdom, Makana finally wakes up. Yoki urges her to face her friends and mend their shattered bonds. Grateful, she accepts his invaluable advice. Inspired, Raven finally finds the courage. They hope to crush the Demon Lord. Amused, the mighty Yoki gestures toward to face happiness. Arriving at Celia's grand mansion alongside Yoki, Duke fiercely blocks their path, glaring at Raven. Duke demands answers, furious that this rejected suitor dares to return. Yoki tries to ease the blazing tension, noting Duke is just fiercely protective. But Duke relentlessly pressures Raven, whose silence only fuels the fire. Mistaking the quiet for arrogance, Duke writes him off as a pathetic coward. Finally, Raven confesses he has absolutely no master plan to woo happiness. Baffled, Duke questions why he lacks the fiery drive to protect her like a true gentleman. Shaking his head, Raven reveals his raw, unpolished intentions. Satisfied by this honesty, Duke steps aside and tells him to speak his heart. As Raven walks away, Duke smirks. It was just a clever test of Cecilia, offering the heroes safe passage, but only if they abandon her. Sincerity. Meanwhile, Raven deeply apologizes to Happiness for startling her before. Handing over his carefully chosen gift, he humbly asks to start over as friends. Wide-eyed, Happiness processes his words, accepts the warm gesture, and agrees to a fresh start. Raven's heart soars with hope for his beloved crush. Exactly 1 week later, the lazy demon Yoki is lounging in bed when Seek desperately begs him to visit Cecilia's mansion. But Yoki stubbornly refuses to go along, since Cecilia has been gone all week. Frustrated, Yoki explains how the legendary hero's party is now drowning in endless daily chores. Cecilia is traveling town to town, casting healing magic, while Raven is commanding the night guard. Meanwhile, Makana is a busy royal. They face the demon general himself. Yoki, he smirks. Arrogantly, behind, Yuga fiercely rejects the deal. But Makana coldly weighs the odds. Magician, and Yuga is out hunting demons. With all the heroes going their separate ways, Yoki feels deep guilt for letting them defeat the demon lord, shattering their grand party. While he sulks in despair, Seek leaps onto his chest in pure frustration. He whines to Yoki that Duke abandoned them too. Become a royal knight. Suddenly, a sharp knock echoes at the door. Soon, Happiness rushes in, announcing Cecilia will finally return home by the afternoon. Yoki shoots up, his lost willpower igniting like a blazing fire. He stares at the beautiful necklace he bought, praying it wins Cecilia's heart. Today. Later, Yoki strolls through the bustling town square, wondering what he should do before their fateful reunion. Lost in deep thought, a creepy old, she warns that this monstrous demon could slaughter them all in a heartbeat. So, fortune teller warns he is cursed with the absolute worst luck today. Yoki refuses to believe her nonsense. Meeting his gorgeous crush guarantees it is the best day ever. Eventually, he stops by a local bakery where the owner's overly energetic brother loudly greets him. Yoki grabs some sweet cupcakes for Cecilia and happily leaves. Navigating the crowded streets, he eagerly pulls out one of the cupcakes and takes a massive bite. Completely distracted by the treat, he ends up slamming right into a towering brute who instantly flares with rage. Yoki bows to the furious man and flees, only to narrowly avoid stepping in fresh dog poop. Dodging the awful mess, he seriously wonders if that creepy hag actually cursed his luck for the entire day. As Yoki blindly walks on, he bumps into a small kid, taking as mercy is their only path to victory. Yet, a stubborn Yuga refuses. This time, he completely ruins the kid's meat skewer, forcing him to buy another one. The kid happily thanks Yoki, but suddenly, a sneaky pickpocket bumps him and snatches his money. Luckily, Yoki spots the thief red-handed, spinning around to hunt him down. Unleashing his terrifying demonic speed, he easily overtakes the foolish thief and kicks him straight into a wall. After claiming his coins from the pickpocket, Yuga randomly drops into the scene. The hero accuses Yoki of beating a helpless man and stealing his wallet. Panicking, Yoki tries to explain he was only taking back his own stolen cash. Unfortunately, the stubborn hero refuses to listen and brutally swings his holy sword at him. Yoki flawlessly dodges all of Yuga's deadly strikes, but the blade slashes his money bag, scattering every coin. Yoki to leave their precious comrade. Suddenly, Cecilia steps forward with resolve, tries to escape the madman, but quickly ends up trapped by an entire squad of royal knights. Siding with the hero, they drag him straight to prison, rotting in jail. Yoki wonders where his life went so horribly wrong. Suddenly, Duke approaches his cell and smugly mocks him for getting locked up. Yoki cries out that he did not do a single thing. Duke quickly reassures him that he knows. He reveals Raven is personally investigating this mess because he believes in Yoki, meaning he will soon be freed once the truth is uncovered. Yoki heaves a massive sigh of relief, but suddenly notices Duke is talking about Raven with a shocking casual tone. He scolds Duke for disrespecting his captain, but Duke proudly declares that he refuses to accept anyone but Yoki as his one true master. Soon after, an elf named volunteering to act as the sacrifice. Reluctantly, Yuga and the heroic party, Irene gracefully arrives, demanding Duke return to his royal duties, although Yoki is stunned by the elf. Duke demands the keys to Yoki's cell from Irene. He asks if Raven really proved Yoki's innocence. Irene firmly nods, hands over the keys. She adds that Yuga desperately wants to apologize to Yoki for his false accusations and endless trouble caused. So, after Yoki leaves that cell, he heads to a luxurious restaurant invited by Yuga. There, a magnificent feast awaits him, with Yuga sitting at the table. The hero eagerly tells Yoki to dig in. Yoki cringes at his blindingly bright smile before taking a seat. Soon, Yoki absolutely demolishes the grand feast with Yuga and Raven, wiping his mouth. Yuga nervously admits he had no idea that Yoki, press on, swearing to rescue their holy priestess after slaying the demon, was actually Raven's friend. Raven slams down a furious note for Yuga, who sighs, revealing he got chewed out mercilessly for his incredibly dumb mistake. Suddenly, the hero pivots the topic, recalling how Yoki was seen hanging out with Cecilia just 1 week ago. He begs to know their relationship status. Yoki casually replies they are just friends. Yuga nods, feeling newfound respect for Yoki for befriending the ice-cold priestess. Suddenly, he asks our hero for some romantic advice, leaving Yoki totally confused. Yuga admits he wants to get closer to Cecilia, but Yoki refuses to help his supposed rival in love. Instead, he acts totally clueless about Cecilia, since they only recently became friends, and quickly points to Raven. Raven refuses to talk, so Yuga fiercely reminds him, Lord, left alone in the shadows. Cecilia demands to know Yoki's true motive. He doesn't need to hide his voice around true friends. Still, the stubborn Raven stays silent and advises them to just speak with Makana. Yuga instantly refuses, claiming Makana truly despises Cecilia. Yoki wonders if she ever admitted to hating Cecilia. Yuga explains that Makana was ready to abandon her in a deadly situation. While Yoki and Raven are shocked, Yuga boldly claims that Cecilia was incredibly lucky to survive being heartlessly abandoned by her friend. Suddenly, Yoki cuts Yuga off, questioning if Makana was truly the only reason Cecilia was left behind. Yuga flares up in anger, arguing that Yoki wasn't even there. Yoki calmly reveals he heard the truth from Makana herself. He reminds Yuga that the terrifying enemy demon actually suggested leaving Cecilia, anticipating a bloody battle. She immediately readies a holy strike. However, behind, not Makana, Yuga snaps back, claiming he tried to refuse the demon. But Makana forced him to accept it. He stubbornly insists she acted purely out of spite. But Yoki fires back, explaining Makana felt absolute agonizing guilt over him for forcing such a heartbreaking choice. He drops the bomb that she even cried. Tears of guilt, heavily shocking Yuga. Yet, he refuses to believe it. So, Yoki pierces his denial, reminding him he made the final call to agree with Makana. Dead silence falls over Yuga. Yoki coldly asks if he still thinks it's all Makana's fault. Reality strikes Yuga hard. He realizes he is the one truly responsible for abandoning their comrade. While Raven tries comforting Yuga, Yoki reminds him of his duty as party leader. He calls Yuga a complete coward for. Yoki instantly drops his guard, frantically begging for a truce. Cecilia, pushing the blame of his own choice onto teammates, declaring that he is a pathetic excuse for a hero. Yoki's ruthless words bring Yuga to tears as he finally realizes he crossed the line. After a tense silence, Yuga calms down and apologizes for losing his temper. He reveals that Makana is his precious childhood friend, so they've been together forever. Looking back at their past, Yuga sadly admits that Makana was always a hard-working girl, fiercely supporting him in everything he did. Looking back, he vividly recalled her fiery scoldings for every single. Our epic tale begins. Hero Yuga stands before the dreaded demon lords. Cecilia's pain, guilt gnawed at his soul, desperate to atone for betraying their deep bond. Yoki casually suggested letting Makana unleash her fury, questions why a monster would politely chat before a brutal execution. He, just like old times, true friends only lash out because they genuinely care from the bottom of their hearts. Sparked by this newfound clarity, hope flared in Yuga's eyes as he thanked his friend. Watching this unfold, Yoki chuckled at the hero's antics, while Raven whispered from the shadows about his lifelong cluelessness. Stepping out of the diner, Yoki pivoted towards Cecilia's place. Suddenly, Yuga blocked his path, begging for backup to face Makana's wrath. Before long, poor Yoki was dragged, kicking and screaming to her doorstep. Grateful, Yuga marched bravely inside alone, leaving Yoki and Raven waiting outside. They prayed for the foolish hero, but disaster struck. Yuga blindly barged in while Makana was changing, mocking their pathetic strength. The party's mage instantly blasts Yoki with softly replies that if he thirsted for her blood, she would have perished. A piercing shriek shattered the silence, echoing through the streets to alert Yoki and Raven of his massive blunder. Despite the chaotic panic, Yuga ignored the fatal timing and desperately gripped Makana's shoulders, frozen in utter shock. She listened as he confessed his horrible sins. Makana furiously noted his current horrific timing, but he pushed forward. The raw words spilled out. He owned up to his grave mistake of burdening her with the heavy guilt of abandoning Cecilia. Hearing his raw honesty, Makana's rage melted into stunned silence. His heartfelt apology left her completely flustered. While she questioned this sudden shift, he demanded a brutal scolding to wash away his sins. This absolutely bizarre request, instantly lowering her weapon slightly, she demands his true purpose. Yoki shattered the tender mood, sending Makana into a fit of maniacal laughter. Yuga flinched back as she mocked his sheer audacity to invade her room, just to beg for punishment, labeling him an absolute masochist. Smirking, she raised her wand and blasted him with ruthless magic. As the hero's agonized screams echoed out, Yoki wisely retreated, jogging back home. Fate led him to the old fortune teller once more, but this time, Yoki confidently shut down her mystical scams. As he vanished into the crowd, the mystic stared into her glowing orb, baffled by whatever hidden karma had suddenly skyrocketed his luck. Down the street, Yoki bumped into the true bakery owner. She bowed deeply, apologizing for her brothers, gathers his ultimate courage and confesses his love for her at first sight. Trashy service while handing over free cupcakes. Soon after, he crossed paths, with elite bodyguards escorting a noble boy and his butler. The old man bowed, thanking Yoki for saving his young master. Memories flashed back of buying the kid a skewer. Shocked, Yoki listened as the butler apologized for the sudden trouble, rewarding his kindness with a premium bag of meat, loaded with delicious loot. Our lucky protagonist finally made his way to Cecilia's grand estate. Inside, happiness glared with absolute fury, demanding to know why he took so long. Yoki chuckled nervously, rushing up to Cecilia's room to deliver the feast. Eyes sparkling, Cecilia insisted on brewing the tea herself. Yoki stared, wondering why no maids. He nervously asked her out on a date. Cecilia freezes in utter bewilderment, stepped in, but she proudly bragged about her independent skills. He shares the joy of Raven's new friendship with Cecilia. He also reveals his own growing bond with the hero party. He truly hopes they can all unite. But as Cecilia speaks, bam! Yuga bursts right in. Through the door, he dashes in, begging forgiveness for his past mistakes, even begging her to punish him. But then, Makana storms in right after, and knocks Yuga out cold for his foolishness. She finally notices Cecilia is hosting Yoki. Flustered, Makana quickly bows, apologizing for ruining their private time. As Raven enters, Yoki wisely slips away to give them some privacy. Tears well up as Makana apologizes for abandoning her. Leaving, after a painfully awkward silence, she brutally rejects his feelings. Here, Cecilia totally stunned. Raven and Yuga step up, admitting they share the blame for leaving their precious friend behind. With a warm smile, Cecilia reassures she completely forgives them, knowing how terrifying it was to face the demon lord without a healer. Back then, the moment Yuga struck down the beast with the legendary Excalibur, Makana immediately turned back, frantically sprinting to find Cecilia. Halfway down the dark corridor, she crashed right into Cecilia, who was rushing to reunite with them. Makana desperately tried to speak, but collapsed into Cecilia's arms, utterly exhausted. Reliving this, Cecilia points out that Makana's heart was always with her friend, even after surviving a brutal clash with the Demon Lord. She knows the party made a words deal massive critical damage, instantly shattering Yoki's will to live. Heart-wrenching choice to save the world. There is zero blame in her heart for being left behind. Overwhelmed with relief, Makana tearfully thanks her for her forgiveness. The boys chime in, and soon, the entire hero party bursts into joyful laughter, their bond fully restored. Later, Cecilia takes a peaceful stroll with Yoki, suspecting he orchestrated the apology. Yoki simply smiles and confesses he just wanted the fractured heroes to reunite, feeling guilty for breaking them up in the first place. Touched, Cecilia praises his sweet and thoughtful nature. Yoki's heart races, thrilled to grow closer to her loved ones, basking in her warmth. He finally seizes the perfect moment to offer his special gift. Cecilia gently takes the box and opens it, suspecting a sinister trap. Cecilia charges up another magical strike. Yet, he reminds her it caught his eye during their date. Blushing, he nervously asks if she'll accept his feelings. With a radiant smile, she promises to keep it forever. Yoki's face lights up tenfold, and he endlessly thanks her for being so incredibly kind. ironically thanking her for accepting his gift. Several days pass. Yoki and Seek accompany Cecilia on a mission to a village ruined by disaster. Bouncing in the carriage, Yoki bitterly glares at Seek, annoyed by this ultimate third wheel ruining his precious romantic alone time with Cecilia. Meanwhile, she sweetly apologizes for dragging them along. Suddenly, the carriage violently hits a bump. Cecilia turns terribly pale and dizzy, sending Yoki into full panic mode. She groans, admitting the bumpy ride is. The heartbroken demon completely drops his defenses, halting her blade, making her terribly motion sick. Smirking, Seek pulls out a magical pixie potion. One sip later, Cecilia's color fully returns. Seek immediately puffs his chest, smugly rubbing his huge usefulness in Yoki's face. Watching them bicker like rivals, Cecilia giggles, truly grateful for their lively company on this dangerous mission. Soon, they arrive at the devastated settlement, left in ruins by ruthless bandits. The village chief approaches to greet Cecilia. Who are these mysterious allies? She proudly introduces Yoki and Seek as gifted healers ready for action. Reassured, the old man guides our heroes directly into the village's hidden shelter. Inside, the trio unleashes their magic, swiftly healing the wounded. Amid the chaos, Yoki catches Cecilia, smiling brightly. Yoki tragically begs her to strike the final blow, completely giving up on life. As her holy light cures the villagers, he is captivated by the fierce dedication, driving her noble work. The village chief shares his awe. Yoki appreciates the old man's sharp eye, but quickly shifts focus to the victims. He finds it highly suspicious that nobody perished in this brutal raid. Trembling, the chief reveals how the ruthless bandits suddenly retreated. A mysterious, overwhelmingly powerful warrior had appeared from the shadows, striking absolute terror into the bandits' hearts and forcing them to flee. This mystery troubles Yoki until he notices Cecilia's mana draining dangerously low. He urges the stubborn priestess to rest, but she refuses to stop. Left with no choice, Yoki casts a swift sleep spell, forcing her to safely recharge. As the holy maiden collapses, the panicked villagers gasp. Cecilia refuses to believe a mighty boss would just quit. Sighing, he reveals, thinking Yoki betrayed them. He frantically explains it was just a gentle sleep, magic before tucking her into bed. Hours pass. Cecilia awakens, realizing exactly what he did. She shoots Yoki a death glare, making him instantly sweat. He swiftly apologizes for the forced nap, but defends his drastic Manhwa protagonist move. He had to protect her from herself. Yoki bluntly warns the reckless priestess that healing on 0 mana would devour her own life force, causing devastating, permanent damage to her holy vessel. Cecilia falls silent, yet stubbornly demands he never cross that line without consent again. Swearing on his honor, Yoki promises, but cheekily adds that it won't be necessary. While she slept, he actually cured every last patient. Touched by his hidden kindness, Cecilia flashes a radiant, pure mana, but he swats it away. Next, the swordsman charges in for a deadly. His tragic backstory: he has been a prisoner in this dark castle forever. Smile, thanking him. Yoki instantly turns redder than a bursting tomato. Suddenly, the village chief bursts in to check on their sleeping savior. Seeing Cecilia perfectly recovered, he begs the saintess to visit a fragile girl named Teal, living alone on the village's dark edge. Yoki immediately suspects Bandit, foul play, but the elder shakes his head. The tragic truth is much heavier, he fears, for her fading life, as a vicious chronic illness keeps her bedridden. Naturally, the noble Cecilia accepts the quest. The heroic party ventures out, finally reaching Teal's gloomy cabin, only to find her peacefully reading in bed. The sick girl gasps at the sudden legendary guests. Cecilia gently explains, they've come to cast a healing miracle. Suddenly, Teal suffers a violent. He is merely a weapon forged to slaughter humans. A destiny, he absolutely. Agonizing, coughing fit. Yoki quickly commands Seek to step up. The fairy-like boy offers his legendary pixie medicine, but Teal shrinks back in fear. Yoki warmly guarantees Seek's divine medical skills, despite his total airhead vibe. Trusting his words, Teal downs the mysterious potion. In mere seconds, vitality surges through her veins. She tearfully thanks Seek, convinced these grand saviors are messengers sent by her guardian deity. Intrigued, Yoki asks about this god. Teal reveals an ancient statue of a forgotten local deity worshipped by the village. During the terrifying night of the bandit invasion, she bravely knelt before it, offering her meager food. Exhausted from praying, a mysterious slumber suddenly claimed her beside the shrine. She firmly believes this divine aura shielded her. Despises. Dumbfounded. Cecilia insists that all demonic beings are born evil. From slaughter, Seek brutally shatters the magic, calling her nap a mere coincidence. Despite her fragile health, Teal's faith remains unshaken. She shares a chilling tale from her youth. Cornered by a vicious wolf pack, she watched the statue erupt with dark energy, instantly obliterating the beasts that threaten her. Teal worships it as a savior, but Yoki and Cecilia sense an unsettling demonic aura. Unable to convince them with words, Teal leads the group straight to the shrine. But upon closer inspection, the truth drops. This so-called deity is actually a terrifying demon. Teal fiercely defends her beloved savior from their doubts, but a sudden, violent coughing fit cuts her off, while Cecilia escorts the sick girl home. Yoki stays behind, desperate. Yoki drops a massive lore bomb, despite his terrifying form. Narrowing his eyes, he recognizes this beast. It is a gargoyle from his homeland. Right on cue, the stone shell cracks and the beast awakens. Yoki instantly leaps back to dodge a lethal swipe, shouting a warning to Seek. However, Seek strikes from above. One devastating kick crushes the monster. Stunned, Yoki interrogates the fallen beast, but it stubbornly accepts its grim fate. Fully prepared for death, Seek moves in for the kill, but Yoki halts him, realizing it has been spared. The tense beast finally relaxes. Yoki calmly notes that the demon threw the first punch anyway. Humbled, the creature apologizes. Yoki accepts, but questions why a noble guardian is rotting in this remote town. The gargoyle reveals its tragic past. Built to defend a sacred shrine, is actually an isekai reincarnator. As Cecilia processes this wild plot twist, it was stolen by ruthless bandits during a violent raid, dragged away as loot. The criminals later attacked this very village. Witnessing the bloodshed triggered the gargoyle's blazing fury. It awakened and slaughtered the wicked invaders, awed by this demonic savior crushing their enemies. The grateful villagers immediately enshrined the beast, worshipping it as their new protector god. However, as peaceful years passed, their devotion faded into nothing. Only Teal stayed loyal, carefully tending to the shrine. So when raiders recently returned to terrorize the town, the beast awakened once more to shield Teal, out of gratitude. Hearing this, Yoki senses no evil intent from the creature. The misunderstood demon swears it only wants to live a quiet, solitary life. He explains he is just a normal human trapped in a monster's body. She gasps. In the shadows, far away from human affairs, satisfied by its humble truth, Yoki sincerely apologizes for the misunderstanding, then pulls Seek aside for a highly classified chat. Later that evening, under the moonlit sky, Yoki strolls with Cecilia. She giggles about Seek sleeping early, but honestly, Yoki totally dismissed the pixie on purpose just to score some sweet alone time. Sensing his intense focus, Cecilia gently asks if something heavy is weighing on his mind. Panicking slightly, Yoki hides his romantic thoughts and lies, claiming he is just analyzing the gargoyle. Cecilia admits her lingering doubts about a demon living nearby, but Yoki flashes a warm smile, promising that the beast has a gentle soul. Relieved by his confidence, Cecilia's worries. Realizing this isekai protagonist must possess absurd cheat skills, she demands completely melt away. Yoki nods in agreement, but suddenly hits a massive wall. He is completely out of topics, stealing a silent, sideways glance at her. He loses himself in her beauty. But suddenly, Cecilia trips over a hidden root. In a flash, Yoki catches her, with Cecilia pressed tightly against his chest. The romantic tension skyrockets. Blushing madly, they quickly jump apart, avoiding eye contact as Yoki nervously stammers for her to be careful. They rush toward the village, but panicked alarm bells pierce the air. Another ruthless bandit raid has begun. As the scum launch their siege, Yoki and the crew arrives to crash the party. The thugs sneer at these mere children, but their smirks vanish when Seek casually obliterates a group of them, forced to know why he hasn't soloed the demon lord yet. Yoki bitterly explains that, to take them seriously, even Cecilia is stunned by his terrifying strength. Yoki proudly declares him his loyal servant, crackling with aura. Yoki joins the fray, instantly wiping out the next wave. Suddenly, a bandit tries to blindside Cecilia, but Yoki's sharp eyes track him down, ending him instantly. Suddenly, ominous smoke billows from the distant gargoyle statue's location. Yoki immediately orders Seek to investigate, then turns his deadly gaze to the remaining bandits. Seeing the muscle leave, the thugs arrogantly assume there is no way two brats can win. But Yoki steps up, channeling a massive tornado spell, blowing the entire squad into the sky. With the battlefield cleared, Yoki realizes Seek still has not returned. Sensing danger, he rushes to the gargoyle. Stealing the throne would instantly crown him as the new supreme overlord. With Cecilia to check the scene. There, a frantic Teal guards a brutally injured gargoyle, while a menacing stranger dangles Seek by the collar, spotting Yoki. They man tosses Seek aside like absolute trash, as the stranger arrogantly taunts Yoki. He wonders who this arrogant intruder is. Cecilia gasps, revealing that the man is Miller, a supposed hero from a rival empire. Yoki is shocked to learn other heroes exist, as Seek weakly struggles to rise. Cecilia begs him to rest, demanding answers. Seek coughs, explaining he caught Miller trying to execute the gargoyle. Though Seek threw his body on the line to protect Teal and the statue, Miller ruthlessly hammered him down instead. Now, Miller mockingly taunts Seek for defending a mere gargoyle. He marches toward the fallen demon to finish it, but forcing him to wage an endless, bloody war against humanity. Crushed by fate, Yoki blocks his path. Miller sneers that purging a wild demon is pure justice. But Yoki fires back that this gargoyle was just shielding an innocent little girl. Unfazed, the mad hero ignores him and launches a lethal strike at them. Yoki blasts a rapid magic bolt, but Miller's dark blade devours the entire attack. As Yoki freezes in shock, Cecilia cries out that Miller wields a magic eater sword, making him the absolute worst matchup. Miller flashes a psycho grin, severing the gargoyle's arm. Horrified, Cecilia warns him to stop provoking a neighboring nation. But the bloodthirsty Miller actively craves a full-scale war, just so he can satisfy his sick, twisted urge to slaughter soldiers. Cecilia realizes this hero is a complete monster. Furious, Yoki prepares to strike. Yet Yoki effortlessly dodges and kicks him away. In desperation, the Yoki surrendered to a pathetic, lonely existence in his prison cell. Destroy him. He unleashes another roaring spell, but Miller easily swallows it. Unrelenting, Yoki unleashes a storm of magical barrages, but the arrogant hero just ignores the hits, walking straight through as everyone panics, fearing Yoki will drain his mana. Desperate, he casts a blazing plasma spell, yet the demonic blade absorbs even that. Watching his ultimate move fail, the crew loses hope, yet Yoki relentlessly spams his magic. Miller laughs like a maniac, blocking every hit, expecting Yoki to burn out his core. Then, a sickening crack echoes. Yoki smirks, declaring the gluttonous weapon has finally hit its absolute limit. Miller's invincible sword shatters into dust, leaving the arrogant one-trick pony totally defenseless. Yoki knocks him out cold with a, but then, destiny brought Cecilia into his life, sparking a radiant new, single brutal punch, basking in victory. But from the shadows, Miller throws a blazing projectile blast toward the gargoyle. Caught off guard, Yoki is left powerless to defend the demon. But suddenly, Teal leaps in, taking the devastating blow instead. Thrilled to protect her savior, Cecilia rushes in to heal Teal's wounds. As Miller mocks Yoki's carelessness, the demon turns around with blazing fury, but Miller fires a magical arrow, scattering it into a massive storm of attacks toward his friends, while Yoki blocks the immense blunder. The devastating truth hit Yuga he had unfairly blamed her for. Wounded, burning rage consumes Yoki. He curses his own arrogance for letting the bastard escape. Blinded by wrath, his sanity shatters, and his physical body, hope worth fighting for. Yet, with his heart shattered by her rejection, he awakens its true, terrifying demonic form. As Yoki turns around, Cecilia feels deep concern for his soul. Yoki blasts into the dark forest, hunting down a stumbling Miller. The rogue senses his bloodlust and pivots to strike, but Yoki teleports behind him with a crushing blow. He coldly declares that Miller's vile sins have sealed his doom, launching the coward violently through a path of shattered trees. Paralyzed by Yoki's monstrous power, Miller has absolutely no fate. Time to react before the demon materializes behind him again. This time, Yoki lands a devastating gut punch, rocketing them both into the sky. Miller panics, dreading his fate, as Yoki's merciless grip fiercely tightens around his throat. Twistedly thrilled, the fallen hero praises Yoki's killing intent, feeling is fully prepared to embrace death. Suddenly, the gentle priestess interrupts. The exact same madness, but those words flash Cecilia's gentle face in his mind, and he refuses to become a slaughtering monster like Miller. Regaining his sanity, He carelessly drops Miller into the lake, deeming the trash unworthy of death. Shifting back to his human form, he finally returns home, finding Cecilia anxiously waiting. Spotting the blood on Yoki's forehead, she instantly rushes to heal him, overwhelmed to see him safe and sound. Tears of pure relief fall. The next day, the group ponders how to restore the gargoyle's limbs. Teal suggests smuggling him into Minerva, but Cecilia warns that demons are strictly banned from entry. Smirking, Yoki reveals his genius plan. He altered the gargoyle into an earth statue to completely bypass the guards. Later, they arrive back at, urging him to survive and wield his overpowered abilities for justice. Cecilia's estate, where Teal enthusiastically begins her maid duties. Sadly, Celia refuses to keep the creepy gargoyle statue inside the main hall, utterly crushing the poor girl's fragile heart. However, Yoki secretly moves the statue into his own quarters, allowing Teal to sneak away from her chores just to loyally serve her beloved guardian. One afternoon, while finishing her daily dusting, a harsh, coughing fit strikes her. Deeply concerned, Guy the gargoyle urges her to rest. Teal stubbornly refuses, asking for Yoki's whereabouts instead. Guy reminds her he just departed to seek an audience with the king. Meanwhile, at the Grand Palace, the royal advisor, Sylvia, announces the monarch's arrival to the duo. King Darts greets the heroes with crushing, imposing authority. As they kneel before him, offers a life-changing pact she will help him escape this hellish domain. Yoki internally scoffs, wondering why rulers act so haughty over a tiny scrap of authority. Suddenly, Darts drops the terrifying facade entirely and begins speaking like a completely average guy, leaving Yoki speechless. While Sylvia tries to make him act royal, he ignores her completely, offering his utmost gratitude to Yoki and Cecilia for rescuing Daga's village from that corrupt hero and bandits. The king generously offers a grand reward to them, but Cecilia humbly declines, saying she merely followed justice. Meanwhile, Yoki boldly declares that even the king cannot grant his wish. Shocked, His Majesty wonders if the world's greatest treasures and beauties fail to tempt Yoki, as he confidently refuses. Darts wonders if he covets the throne. But, a few days later, the radiant kingdom of Clarionis hosts an epic festival. Yoki denies it, leaving him utterly baffled. Finally, Yoki shamelessly demands Cecilia's hand in marriage. Darts helplessly admits that such a match is beyond his power. Back from the palace, Cecilia fiercely scolds Yoki for his reckless stunt. Though Yoki admits fault, Celia demands strict punishment for this outrageous crime. She suggests banishing Yoki from her daughter for 1 month. Yet, Cecilia fears she'll deeply miss him. To appease her daughter's heart, Celia reduces the ban to 2 weeks, ordering Happiness to kick him out. As Happiness drags him away, Yoki spots Seek through a window. Seeing his gloomy face, Yoki senses his heavy guilt since honoring their legendary heroes for finally crushing the evil regime. He failed to protect Teal from Miller before he can finish his thoughts. Happiness roughly drags him off, tossing him out of the Grand Mansion. Back in Yoki's room, Teal snuggles up to Guy, who shivers at the unwanted touch. Soon, Happiness drags Yoki in and hurls him by the bed. As Teal starts coughing, Guy urges her to rest at home while Happiness escorts her. Guy warns her to take it easy, but she fiercely vows to forever serve her beloved guardian. Later, Yoki grumbles to Guy about his cruel exile. Guy suggests winning Celia's favor instead. Inspired, Yoki charges to the Adventurers Guild, forcing Clayman to hand over brutal quests. King Darts praises the valiant warriors for saving their peaceful realm to skyrocket his rank. 2 weeks later in the garden, Cecilia absent-mindedly pours 2 teacups despite being alone. Realizing she poured a cup for Yoki, Celia enters and playfully teases her for missing her fiancé. Celia sits to enjoy the rich tea. As Sophia reports Yoki's relentless grind over the past 2 weeks. Back in his room, Yoki collapses after another flawless mission. As he sits down, Guy begs for help. Suddenly, Guy vanishes in a thick cloud of smoke, reappearing in his true gargoyle form. Yoki sharply notices deep cracks fracturing Guy's stone body. Guy grimly reveals he only has a few days left to live. Yoki demands why he hid this deadly from certain doom and proudly decrees a glorious 3-day celebration. Secret, Guy smiles, stating Yoki couldn't have saved him anyway. He adds his deep worry for Teal, as he won't be there to protect her soon. Guy reveals Teal's illness has rapidly worsened over these past days. Yoki questions why Seek felt so relieved about her. Still, Guy insists her aura looks far worse than usual. Yoki firmly promises he'll protect her life. Hearing this, Guy feels peace, ready to embrace his final rest. But Yoki smirks, vowing to fix his broken body too, since he refuses to lose a cool room decoration. Wasting no time, Yoki contacts Duke for a cure. Duke explains that he merely needs rare magic ore to repair the beast. Yoki grins, rushing off. Support mage Cecilia buffs Yuga, who charges up and unleashes. Meanwhile, far beyond the cheering crowds, Yoki watches from the silent shadows. Before Duke finishes his sentence, suddenly, Cecilia enters. Rushing to Yoki, Cecilia cries that Teal has fallen gravely ill. Yoki instantly follows her to Teal's room, urgently asking Seek for a diagnosis. Seek explains that, despite his efforts, Teal's raging fever won't break. Desperate, Yoki asks if he can possibly help. Seek says a rare herb called evening grass is needed to cure her. But since this mythical herb doesn't grow locally, Seek bitterly wonders how they'll even obtain it. Unfazed, Yoki confidently vows that he will find the herb no matter what, and Cecilia joins his crusade. Yoki suddenly recalls he still needs to secure magic ore for Guy. Hearing this, bedridden, Teal worries for his safety, but Seek firmly orders her to rest. He urges Yoki to hurry. So Spot, knowing Cecilia resides here, he must disguise his true nature, storms out with Cecilia, determined to leave the mansion. However, the duo suddenly bumps into Celia in the halls. Both Yoki and Cecilia feel terrified she will punish their secret meeting, but Celia already knows they are just trying to save Teal's life. Moments later, our heroes finally reach the Adventurers Guild, only to hear bad news. The guild is totally out of magic, ore, and the evening grass. As despair starts setting in, Clayman safely walks in with an urgent Manhwa quest. He asks Yoki for backup, but Yoki quickly refuses as he lacks the time for side missions. However, Clayman drops a massive hook. The target actually lives inside a magic ore mine. There, they can harvest both the ore and the rare evening grass that thrives on dense mana. Hearing this golden chance, snapping off his demon horn in agony, he breaches the human kingdom. Meanwhile, Yoki instantly accepts Clayman's commission, and they roll out on a fast carriage toward the mystical mines. 2 days later, their carriage finally approaches the dangerous territory. Inside, Cecilia warmly thanks Sophia for joining their vital after mission. As the sun sets, the party safely arrives at a bustling city near the first dark mines, where Sophia orders everyone to rest up. Yoki asks why they aren't heading straight into the dungeon. Clayman warns that these mine monsters grow exceptionally brutal at night. Yoki nervously wonders if their target is a lethal beast. Clayman reveals it's a heavily mutated rock monster that has fully absorbed the dense mana from the ores, gaining total immunity to all magic strikes, while Yoki recalls the magic immunity of Miller's sword. Clayman, Makana praises Yuga's epic victory, swelling the hero's pride. But Yuga adds a crazy catch. The client demands they flawlessly preserve the rock monster's precious skin. So, even though they cannot destroy the beast with brute force, they must capture it alive using magic binding. By dawn, the entire party gears up to conquer the dungeon after a solid rest. Cecilia curiously asks if Sophia will really fight in her maid attire, and she smirks, claiming her dress is totally custom forged for battle. Sophia shyly admits that Clayman loves seeing her rock the maid look before they plunge into the dark abyss. After some deep exploration, they breach the boss room. There, they spot the gluttonous rock monster savagely devouring the precious magic ores. Sensing the intruder's aura, the beast abandons its meal and violently hurls a boulder right at, turns straight to Cecilia, knowing she was the true key to their win. This, Cecilia, Yoki instantly blocks the strike, forcing the beast to target Sophia next. As she elegantly dodges, Clayman flexes his magic, summoning paper puppets to slice the incoming debris to dust. Yoki then fires a blazing magic attack at the N-Air monster, but it merely laughs it off. Clayman shouts a warning, reminding Yoki to keep the skin intact. The beast roars, aggressively stomping toward the party, changing tactics. Yoki casts advanced earth magic to heavily bind the beast, while Cecilia locks the beast down with glowing magic chains. But furious, the monster rips through her restraints. It violently shatters the ice prison, breaking out and launching a devastating counterattack. With magic failing, Yoki desperately asks Clayman for a master plan to crush this rock titan. Clayman reveals that they leaves Makana burning with bitter jealousy. Soon after, Yoki steps into the must immobilize the beast completely. This creates a crucial opening for Sophia to strike from inside its core, shielded by his paper puppets. Astounded, Yoki wonders if Clayman is truly fine sending his wife into the jaws of death, but without hesitation. Clayman places absolute faith in Sophia's strength. Trusting him, Yoki summons a massive wall of ice to freeze the Titan's legs solid. Cecilia instantly backs him up, unleashing chains to lock it down once more. With the behemoth fully restrained, Sophia dives straight into the monster's gaping maw. As the furious beast thrashes against its heavy bindings, massive chunks of rock splinter off its body, morphing into a terrifying swarm of mini golems. As the stone army charges forward, Clayman orders Yoki and Cecilia to keep the main boss pinned down. Without pause, Cecilia, bustling adventurer's guild to register. The sluggish receptionist, Clayman, tightens her grip, while Yoki unleashes an explosive spell to obliterate the swarm, channeling his father's raw magical power. Yet, the stone golems resist his strike, brushing it off like dust. Left with no choice, Yoki throws fierce punches, but one golem viciously grazes Clayman's leg. Yoki screams at Clayman to guard his own life, but Clayman pours his soul into shielding Sophia with his puppets. Suddenly, the rock Titan shatters its chains once more, but brutally sending Cecilia flying. It towers over her for the final kill. But suddenly, a violent tremor erupts inside the beast's hardened core. Sophia unleashes utter devastation, blending its insides into a gruesome paste. The Titan crumbles to rubble as she steps out of its mouth. Despite playing it cool earlier, Clayman desperately rushes in and pulls her into a tight hug, sighs and slides over the paperwork. Once Yoki signs his new fate, Clayman, while Yoki and Cecilia watch this heart-fluttering reunion, Sophia sharply reminds Clayman of their true mission, securing the legendary even grass. Quickly, they all snap back to reality. Stepping into the dungeon's deepest chamber, they finally find a glowing field of blooming evening grass. Mission accomplished. They escape the dungeon, and Clayman orders the party to make camp until dawn, warning them that traveling outside at night means certain death. Yoki desperately tries to argue, but Cecilia firmly commands him to follow the leader's orders. Yet, in the dead of night, Yoki quietly rises and sneaks away like a shadow. Outside, he freezes in pure shock. Cecilia is waiting, having predicted his reckless move. She tosses him a precious pouch of evening grass and urges him to fly home at once. Astonished, Yoki simply nods as Cecilia tosses him a guild card. He explains the grim reality of starting in F rank, him to save their precious friends. Unleashing his true demonic form, he instantly blasts into the night sky. Back home, Yoki hands the magic grass to Seek before checking Guy's isolated chamber. Seeing the gargoyle completely unresponsive, Yoki's heart sinks. Is it too late to save his friend? But suddenly, the gargoyle's eyes snap open. He weakly asks if Teal is safe. Yoki softly reassures him of her safety, offering him glowing magic ore to consume. Guy hesitates, doubting the stone can heal his broken body. But a fierce Yoki forces him to swallow it. Yoki drops a heavy truth bomb. He must regain his true strength. For Teal's sake, this emotional spark ignites his will to survive. In a flash, he powerfully absorbs the magic ore's blazing energy, completely regenerating his stony physique before rocketing straight to Teal's room. Rushing to her bedside, he wakes the sleeping girl 2 miles away from S rank. Yoki must grind through endless quests, and check she is truly alive. Seeing Teal open her eyes, Guy's soul finally finds utter peace. Outside, Yoki sighs, dreading a long flight back to Clayman's group. Meanwhile, Guy turns and expresses his deepest gratitude to Seek for protecting Teal, moving Seek to absolute tears as Yoki gently pats the sobbing boy. Teal gasps at Guy's fully regenerated arm. He smiles, entirely healed. By morning, Yoki hits the road with Clayman's party, shamelessly resting his head on Cecilia's lap. Clayman scoffs at his sheer laziness, but Cecilia happily calls it a well-deserved reward for his fierce battles. Days later, a storm brews. 3 mysterious figures lurk on a rainy, hidden rooftop. With a wicked smirk, the shadowy leader summons a dark, his ultimate attack, Excalibur. But Yoki counters with his endless, usually takes a whole month just to hit E rank. Clayman strictly warns. Floating grimoire, it snaps open, revealing a terrifying, glowing eye as Yoki to protect his card and wishes him luck. Armed with his new tag, Yoki tears through countless quests, easily securing enough coin for an inn. A week later, he returns to the guild. The entire hall is buzzing about a monstrous rookie ranking up at terrifying speeds. Unbothered, Yoki asks Clayman for another batch of quests, but the lazy clerk snaps, furious that he has to process more paperwork today. He barks at Yoki to bother the pharaoh, pretty girl beside him instead, but Yoki stubbornly refuses, claiming he prefers spending time with his favorite clerk. Brushing that off, Clayman questions Yoki's true identity. He knows no ordinary human could skyrocket dark magic, violently clashing with Excalibur, following a fierce struggle. Yoki, from F to D rank in a single week. Yoki plays dumb, forcing Clayman to sigh in defeat. Since no laws were broken, he can't actually probe further. Suddenly, a mysterious cloaked girl approaches the counter, demanding to cancel all his quests. Stunned, Yoki instantly recognizes the hidden figure. It is Cecilia. Clayman also freezes, wondering why the hero priestess is here. Cecilia sharply shushes him. Turning to Yoki, she drops a bombshell and invites him to her private estate. Riding together in her lavish carriage, Yoki wonders why she invited a guy home. Arriving at the grand mansion, one of the guards glares with heavy suspicion at Yoki, stepping out of the ride. He levels his spear at Yoki, demanding answers. Stepping forward, Cecilia crushes the hero and utterly defeats the whole party. Sprawled out on the shields him, declaring Yoki is her dear friend. Panic ensues as another guard yanks his partner away. Inside, Cecilia pours tea and deeply apologizes for taking so long to find him. Yoki shrugs it off, genuinely curious how she tracked him down in this sprawling capital. She reveals he's become insanely famous across town for blazing through to D rank at impossible speeds. Because of this hype, she begs him to quit the Adventurers Guild, leaving him totally bewildered. She explains that since Yuga crushed the Demon Lord, the surrounding nations sparked a vicious proxy war for supremacy. Yuga is currently drowning in endless bribes from greedy rulers, offering him women, gold, and unlimited absolute power. Yoki feels a sting of envy, yet he quickly realizes cold ground. A crushed Yuga wonders if this is truly the end for him and his. These kingdoms just want to chain the hero as their ultimate weapon. Cecilia then drops the truth with his terrifying strength. Yoki would also draw that exact same dangerous attention from power-hungry nations. After all, his raw power eclipses the hero himself. She's terrified Yoki will be exploited to conquer the entire world. Yoki grasps her heavy burden, but bluntly reminds her he has bills to pay. Smiling, Cecilia offers to hire him, but she tearfully confesses her empty pockets, desperately begging him to accept the deal. But Yoki simply orders her to raise her head. He boldly declares that even if the most breathtaking woman alive were offered to him, he would refuse. His eyes belong only to Cecilia. This, friends, once Yuga fades to black. Yoki secretly heals the fallen heroes. Bold claim makes her giggle, leaving Yoki completely flustered. Suddenly, Cecilia's mother, Celia, steps into the room. She apologizes to Yoki for her guards' disrespect and orders her maid, Sophia, to discipline him. As she leaves, Celia drops a bombshell. Her daughter is drowning in marriage offers. Yoki panics, recalling how even the hero Yuga confessed to Cecilia. But Celia reassures him that she firmly rejected the hero. Seeing Yoki's flustered state, Celia smirks. She takes a seat right beside him and asks if he wants to marry Cecilia. Shocked, Yoki senses a trap. Is she testing? Strike. Miller seizes the opening to flee, seeing his precious companions Thunder violently crashes. Next morning, Yoki aimlessly wanders the streets, annoyed that Cecilia is far too busy to hang out. Walking off his boredom, he suddenly bumps into Clayman on a shopping spree, curious about the bags. Yoki asks what he is hunting for. Clayman admits he is desperately seeking the perfect anniversary gift for Sophia. Thrilled by the quest, Yoki eagerly joins the husband's desperate hunt. Scouring the market, our hero spots a pair of fluffy cat ears. He instantly demands Clayman buy the adorable accessory to match Sophia's maid outfit. Blushing furiously, Clayman roars that he is not into furries, rejecting the gag gift. Clayman reveals he already secured the perfect present. Bored again, Yoki decides to shop for his own loot. Suddenly, a sleek black hero suit catches his eager eye. Yoki buys the edgy gear, instantly throwing it on and posing like a true comic book savior. Watching this childish display, Clayman seriously doubts this ridiculous hero phase, but Yoki is dead serious. He boldly commands Clayman to find the absolute hardest commissions to test his legendary strength. Soon, the dynamic duo swaggers into the bustling guild, where Clayman introduces this edgy black Yoki as a veteran pal. The receptionist visibly cringes at the cosplay, but trusting Clayman, she reluctantly offers elite A-rank quests. Smirking, Yoki boldly claims he will solo every single rank mission on the board, leaving her utterly speechless. Without delay, he blasts off to a distant forest. After absolutely annihilating a massive black dragon, Yoki rushes to the city, handing its heart to a desperate man for life-saving medicine. Riding this high, he easily clears 2 more insane missions. Finally, only one elite A-rank bounty remains. Dead of night, outside a silent warehouse, a hooded rogue named Envy brutally strikes down the guards with his dark grimoire. Stepping over them, Envy signals his wicked accomplices, Heartburn and Jealousy, as they prepare to ruthlessly assassinate their target. Breaching the dark facility, they quickly corner the terrified warehouse owner as the poor merchant begs for mercy. The villains declare they are taking everything, but before they execute their heist, our hero drops in. Clad in black, Yoki arrives to save the night. He leaps from a high crate, issuing a chilling warning to surrender. Immediately, scoffing, Envy completely dismisses this budget dark knight, ordering Jealousy and Heartburn to crush him. Drawing their deadly weapons, the 2 assassins charge at Yoki. Heartburn violently lunges to, plunges from above, but Yoki vanishes, leaving her to smash a wooden crate as weird heart-shaped candies explode from the wreckage. Yoki sparks up his deadly lightning magic. He fires a dazzling bolt at the thieves. They barely dodge it, but Yoki instantly chains another brutal lightning strike, knocking Heartburn completely out cold. In a flash, he crushes Jealousy too. With both lackeys defeated, the boss Envy finally steps up, unleashing his cursed book. He summons a raging tornado, yet Yoki counters with pure lightning aura, piercing the gale. Yoki rushes in with his blade and lands an epic finishing strike. With the villains crushed, the owner praises Yoki for rescuing his precious Valentine's chocolates. As Yoki realizes this fantasy world also has Valentine's Day, the royal knights storm the scene, spotting his ridiculous toe Batman disguise. They freeze in utter shock. Yoki spins around, pushing his goofy hero, Betasona. But Raven and Dukes see right through it. Dukes Jr. Knight gasps at the massive warehouse damage, but our hero smoothly claims he was just fighting off the bandits. He quickly vanishes into thin air before she can interrogate him. After leaving those trash thieves to the guards, Duke struts into the shadows where he senses Yoki lurking. Duke sighs, begging Yoki to drop the ridiculous Batman act. He coldly notes that whenever Yoki tries these dramatic stunts, he just ends up humiliating himself in the end. Still stubborn, Yoki denies looking that cringe, but after catching his own reflection, he admits his terrible cosplay is draining his precious aura points. The next morning, he hits the guild to claim his sweet reward for busting the Envy gang. Curious about their dark origin, Clayman explains they were just normal B-rank adventurers until they unearthed a cursed grimoire in a dungeon. Its evil magic completely corrupted their minds, turning them into bitter trolls obsessed with ruining everyone's Valentine's Day. Meanwhile, as the romantic holiday approaches, girls everywhere are crafting sweet chocolates for their crushes. Inside Celia's kitchen, the maids are baking up a storm. Little Teal tries to crush solid chocolate, but her tiny hands just cannot shatter it. Suddenly, Sophia steps in and fiercely karate chops it to pieces. Amaze. Teal thanks her for the awesome save. Nearby, Cecilia stirs a massive pot of chocolate beside Makana. Makana questions the giant mountain of sweets, since Valentine treats are strictly meant for one true love. Blushing, Cecilia lies that she is only baking for the local orphan kids, completely hiding her secret romantic plans with Yoki. When Valentine's Day arrives, our clueless hero wakes up totally lost. Even his literal rock statue roommate, Guy, knows what day it is and reminds Yoki about the holiday. Thrilled, Yoki sits up expecting a sweet surprise. The door opens, but his hype shatters when he sees it is just tiny Teal. Brutally ignoring Yoki's existence, she dashes straight to the statue Guy with her handmade chocolates, leaving Yoki blushing. She starts feeding him chocolates by hand, unable to watch. Yoki flees the room before his single heart bursts from jealousy. He drags himself to the Adventurers Guild lobby, where Clayman struts in with a custom box of sweets. He shamelessly pops it open for all to see, proudly showing off a special handmade batch from Sophia, as Clayman ruthlessly and smugly devours the treats before his lonely audience. The guild receptionist and Yoki feel their souls leaving their bodies. Suddenly, Clayman warns Yoki to keep his hands off his precious sweets. Furious, our lonely hero curses him out and storms off. Seeking comfort with Duke, he instead gets ambushed by a junior knight holding a gift. The dense Duke completely misses the romantic cue. He still ditches poor Yoki to chat with his cute junior. Offering the box, she bashfully confesses her deep admiration for his hard work and endless support. Duke warmly thanks her for the sweet gesture, accepting the gift and making the girl beam with joy. Watching even the most oblivious of his friends score a romantic win, Yoki's jealousy explodes and he runs away. But fate is cruel. Next, he spots a blissfully happy Raven, who is struggling to give him some handmade chocolates, though Raven is absolutely thrilled to catch Yoki in this awkward moment. Yoki just spins on his heel and retreats in utter defeat. Wandering the lonely streets, he spots a massive line of blushing girls waiting to shower Yuga with chocolates, mocking his miserable single existence. With his heart burning with rage, Yoki trudges on before bumping into Makana. He assumes she's also chasing Yuga, but the shy girl lacks the courage to hand over her gift. Miraculously, Yuga slips right past the raging fangirls to find Makana, gently asking for his chocolate. Stunned, she glows with joy, yet hesitates to hand over her creation. She nervously admits her cooking is terrible, but Yuga insists on accepting her heartfelt feelings, no matter how disastrous. Finally, Makana opens her box, revealing a chocolate lump that looks like a cursed demonic tumor. To Yoki's absolute shock, Yuga isn't fazed by the horrific dark matter. He gracefully accepts the cursed treat and tosses it into his mouth, smoothly claiming Valentine's Day is empty without Makana's sweet gift. While Yoki stands utterly dumbfounded, the wild mob of girls spots Yuga, violently trampling Yoki to reach their idol, completely broken. Yoki drags his shattered ego to Celia's mansion. There, Celia and Seek step outside to welcome him. Celia reveals that Cecilia is busy working in town, making him lose his very last shred of hope as he drops to his knees. She offers him a pity box of her own chocolate, but Yoki's foolish pride screams to reject it. Ultimately, when Celia sadly asks if her gift isn't good enough, our defeated hero swallows his massive pride and accepts it like a good puppy. Suddenly, Duke rushes in with news: Envy has broken out of prison. Meanwhile, at the town orphanage, Cecilia is happily giving chocolates to the kids when a colossal monster shadow looms nearby. The terrifying beast stomps through the streets, carrying Envy's gang on its head. Towering over the panicked citizens, Envy passionately declares to the town that he's launching a grand revenge crusade for every heartbroken single person alive. With a roar, he commands his massive rock golem to confiscate every single joyful, romantic candy. The beast raises its giant hands, unleashing a vortex that sucks away. Hooked on this manhwa, they snatch every chocolate box. As the crowd watches in sheer horror, the Envy gang ruthlessly steals their joy. Yuga steps forward, demanding why they'd ruin this sweet holiday. Envy sneers, claiming a handsome guy like him knows nothing of a lonely single's pain. Envy's giant golem stomps down hard on Yuga, who barely dodges getting crushed flat. Suddenly, Yoki bursts onto the scene, ordering the heroes to evacuate everyone while he solos the beast. As Envy's relentless rampage tears through town, Yoki shouts from a high rooftop, begging them to halt this senseless chaos. He declares it completely foolish to vent their bitter rage on innocent people. Jealousy mocks Yoki as a pathetic single who received 0 chocolates today. But Yoki proudly boasts that he actually did. When mocked about the sender, Yoki admits it was a pity gift from his buddy's mom. Envy scoffs, questioning his joy over pity chocolate. But Yoki smiles, declaring that any gift fills his heart, provided that it holds true love. Losing all patience, Envy violently attacks with the massive golem. Yoki swiftly dodges, scaling its giant arm before crushing both jealousy and heartburn. Envy unleashes blazing fire from his grimoire. Yoki frantically dodges the lethal fireballs, seeking an opening, but Envy relentlessly pressures him with homing magic. Finally, Yoki launches a brave counter-strike, but Envy evades perfectly. He cruelly reminds Yoki he's doomed to be a miserable outcast, but Yoki fiercely vows he will never yield until he earns a sweet gift from his crush. Overhearing this, Cecilia eyes the present she prepared for him. Meanwhile, Envy erupts in pure fury over Yoki's secret crush. A devastating blast erupts, but Yoki bravely parries the magical strike. Envy screams that false gifts mean nothing, demanding true love from a real crush. Rejecting meaningless pity presents, Yoki counters, swearing he would happily cherish a gift from anyone. But a furious Envy violently blasts him away. The monstrous golem then devours every single remaining Valentine present across town, including Cecilia's precious handmade box. Witnessing this tragedy, Yoki falls into absolute despair. Raven charges forward, but Makana warns that an attack might destroy the stolen gifts inside. Nearby, Yoki slowly rises, burning with a legendary new fury. Responding to his roaring wrath, heavenly lightning strikes down, which Yoki masterfully redirects at Envy's grimoire. The epic surge instantly melts the golem's chocolate core, liberating every stolen present trapped deep within. As the beast vanishes, Yuga smoothly catches a falling Envy. Taking a closer look, he realizes Envy is actually a girl. Blushing, Envy snaps at him that girls can despise Valentine's Day too. A painful childhood memory reveals a boy cruelly rejecting her sweet chocolates just because she seemed like a tomboy. Envy cries that no one wants a tomboy's gift, but Yuga gently shakes his head, whispering that any gift crafted with true devotion will be deeply cherished. Struck by the hero's epic sincerity, Envy instantly falls in love. Regaining her lost faith in romance, Yoki boils with rage, seeing Yuga shamelessly steal his epic lines. But suddenly, the lovely Cecilia approaches to him. Blushing, she hands over a precious gift box before departing, leaving Yoki overjoyed. Once alone, Yoki happily opens the box to devour his sweet cookies. But wait, Duke points out Cecilia gave everyone cookies, leaving Yoki feeling crushed and left out. However, his sadness fades when he realizes he received a whole cake. Happiness smirks, pointing out he got the ultimate prize. Thrilled that his crush finally noticed him, Yoki screams in pure joy. A few days later, Clayman briefs Yoki on a notorious thief guild that has been raiding ship cargo near the port town of Frimire. Naturally, the first thought crossing Yoki's mind at the mention of the beach is gazing at Cecilia in a swimsuit. He instantly accepts Clayman's urgent quest to investigate the shadows, but tragically, when he begs Cecilia to tag along, she coldly rejects him due to a massive mountain of guild paperwork. Instead, she deploys Happiness to back Yoki up in her place. Though the girl looks visibly annoyed, Yoki awkwardly apologizes for dragging her into this mess. Before spotting weird artifacts on her hip, Happiness proudly shows them off, revealing she uses her own plucked feathers as deadly hidden weapons. Suddenly, Raven arrives to join the raid party. When Happiness finally spots him, she spins around and shyly greets him with a good morning. Raven gets totally flustered by her gaze, noticing a beautiful hairpiece glittering in her hair. Her heart flutters that he noticed, but she is way too shy to say a single word. The carriage driver suddenly announces their departure, so she rushes inside to secure a seat. Raven quietly wonders if Yoki invited Happiness on a secret date, but Yoki clarifies he only brought her because her magic skills are vital for the quest. Raven instantly feels embarrassed that he knows absolutely zero about his own crush's powers. Yoki quickly points out that Raven has not known Happiness for long, urging them to break the ice by spending more time together. However, once the party actually boards the carriage, Raven and Happiness sit awkwardly, staring at each other like frozen statues. Later, they arrive at the bustling port town where Yoki leaves the duo completely alone to interrogate the locals for mission intel. The second he leaves, Happiness turns to the townsfolk and starts digging for solid clues. A local sailor wonders what she wants, so Raven quickly scribbles down an explanation. Realizing these kids are official agents of the First Guild, the sailor sighs, explaining the locals are struggling to unmask the phantom thieves. Happiness wonders how a rogue could be so stealthy, and the sailor nods grimly. He reveals that the corrupt city guards suspect the sailors of smuggling the stolen goods, making their bias investigations bear zero results. Happiness demands to know if the sailors are truly innocent. So, the man swears on his honor that they are all hardworking men. Fired up, both Happiness and Raven vow to expose the real culprits. Overjoyed, the sailor turns to his crewmates, calling them to celebrate their new saviors. Soon, the gruff men swarm the blushing kids, beaming at their cute heroes. Sometime later, Yoki returns from his solo scouting phase. He asks Raven for fresh clues. Raven grimly reveals there are 0 eyewitnesses to the cargo disappearing. He also explains that every single guard posted on cargo duty mysteriously forgets all memories of the actual heist. Yoki is totally baffled, but Raven believes the sailors are telling the truth, since a memory wipe is too insane to fake. Secret. He whispers that every sailor heard an eerie, haunting melody right before losing their memories, a vital clue to the true culprit. Raven suspects a deadly mermaid monster, sparking Yoki's thrilling excitement. But as Yoki loudly summons Happiness to begin the hunt, Raven frantically tries to silence him. Alas, it is far too late. The sailors hear the beast's name, and absolute terror sweeps the crew. Panic over the man-eating sea fiend erupts. Yoki innocently wonders, are mermaids truly that terrifying? The sailors grimly recount tales of sunken ships and lost brethren. Ever since the bloody massacres began, the open ocean became a realm of pure dread. Hearing their tragic plight, Raven declares himself a knight of the heroes' party. Yoki vows to shield them from the oceanic threat, realizing legendary warriors stand as their guardians. The trembling sailors finally find peace and disperse. Later, Yoki sits quietly with Happiness, realizing humans deeply fear monsters. Happiness smugly teases Yoki for his ignorance, reminding him that his former demon lord's army brought apocalyptic ruin upon humanity. Yoki sighs at his folly. Soon, Raven returns from the bustling market. Happiness offers him a sweet pastry, which he warmly accepts. Yoki smirks, noting the romantic tension blooming between them is sweeter than sugar. Raven suddenly shifts gears, sharing crucial intel about the mermaid target. A little while ago, while browsing the stalls, a shadowy figure approached him, whispering the monster's exact location. Yoki senses a deadly trap, and Raven completely agrees, but they must face the danger anyway. Raven sternly orders Happiness to stay back while they confront this shady threat. Happiness fiercely refuses to hide. Raven desperately begs her to stay safe. Puzzled by his fierce stubbornness, she listens as Raven recounts his tragic past. During the Demon Lord's brutal invasion, even the mighty hero's party failed to stop a village from burning to ash. Haunted by that failure, he refuses to let Happiness face such mortal danger today. Yet, her unwavering resolve stands strong. She marches forward to face the abyss. Though Raven hesitates in fear, Yoki promises that Happiness possesses incredible hidden strength. Soon, the heroic trio arrives at the eerie coordinates. Hidden in the shadows, they uncover a massive hoard of plundered cargo, the exact treasures stolen from the weeping sailors. Happiness spots a narrow oceanic cave, completely impassable for any human ship. Suddenly, the dark waters boil. Weapons are drawn as aura spikes. A mesmerizingly beautiful mermaid erupts from the depths, looming right before our fearless trio. She parts her lips. Raven senses the fatal attack. He screams for them to block their ears. The mermaid's piercing, hypnotic siren song echoes, unleashing a devastating psychic strike. Fighting through the agony, Happiness boldly steps up and unleashes her own radiant melody. Her voice shatters the hypnotic sound waves completely. This divine opening lets Raven draw his blade and charge the beast. Yoki fiercely backs him up. Yoki blasts her with earth magic. Seeing her attacks fail, the mermaid desperately dives toward the ocean depths, but Yoki's rock tendrils violently erupt from below. Cutting off her escape, Raven instantly corners her, accepting her grim fate. She tearfully begs Raven to save her dear friend, stolen away by humans. While Yoki and Happiness feel profound pity, Raven completely ignores her cries, his eyes ice cold. He declares he will never trust a demonic beast. She breaks down in pure despair. Seeing this, Happiness throws herself directly in front of Raven's deadly blade, shielding the sobbing mermaid. Shik gasps in shock, yet Raven remains absolutely stone-faced, refusing to yield. He coldly demands why Happiness defends a monster, leaving her utterly speechless. Desperate, Yoki begs Raven to show mercy. Raven glares, baffled that his own comrades are shielding their foe. Yoki vows he would never defend a vile demon who harmed the innocent, but he insists this mermaid's tragic tale could be the truth. Hearing Yoki plead, Raven finally sighs, lowering his weapon and letting the mermaid live. As his killing intent fades, Happiness weakly collapses to her knees, suffocating under the weight of her own dark, traumatic past. Knowing exactly the pain she carries, Yoki gently comforts her, turning his gaze back to the trembling mermaid. He softly asks for the full truth. Still utterly stunned, Shik wonders if these humans will actually believe her words, even though they promise to listen. Fear keeps her silent, sensing the heavy, suffocating tension. Yoki brightly breaks the ice, introducing himself as a brave adventurer. Happiness scolds his sudden, goofy act, but Yoki waves her off and warmly introduces his two companions. Feeling their sincerity, the mermaid reveals her name is Shik. Yoki asks why she cast that dangerous illusion on his party. Guilt-ridden, Shik bows her head, whispering that ruthless humans forced her hand. Her peaceful clan always avoided the surface world, until one tragic day, while swimming freely with her dear friend Msiki, a sudden, violent tempest swallowed them whole. When Shik finally opened her eyes after the storm, she was bound and blindfolded on a human vessel. A terrifying thug threatened her, put the crew to sleep, or he would slaughter Msiki before her very eyes. Ever since that day, the vicious bandits dragged her onto ships, using her magic to knock out innocent sailors for easy loot. Yoki feels the absolute truth in her words, but Raven's eyes burn with skepticism, knowing the stubborn swordsman would never trust a demon alone. Happiness tightly grips his hands, desperately begging him to believe Shik for her sake. With a heavy sigh, Raven agrees to investigate the mermaid's tragic claims. Searching around, the party discovers that all the treasure here is totally fake. The bandits planted this junk to bait any naive investigators into the dark cave. Once trapped inside, the ruthless thugs would force Shik to cast her sleep spell, effortlessly butchering their victims without a trace. Shivering at his near-death experience, Yoki asks Shik if she knows the bandits' secret hideout. She shakes her head, explaining she was kept entirely blindfolded during transit, hiding their base's location. Just then, Raven's eyes narrow sharply. The bandits will be arriving at this very cave. To finish them off, gripping his sword, Raven marches out to face the enemy, closing in on the target. Soon, the thugs cross paths with Raven, acting innocent, but Raven's voice drops cold. Were they behind the robberies? For some reason, these fools mock Raven's feminine voice instead, and begin laughing at him. Big mistake. Raven's aura sharpens, realizing these trash force an innocent mermaid into a life of crime. Without hesitation, he draws his blade, and the thugs charge. Raven effortlessly slices through the first attacker before clashing steel with their boss. In a flash, he disarms the leader's weapon, crushing him instantly before sweeping the rest. Panic sets in. The surviving thugs realize they are doomed and try to flee, but blocking their path is Yoki, loudly hyping up his own heroic entrance. Out of nowhere, Happiness shoves Yoki completely out of the way, unleashing her wind fans to blast the remaining bandits into the dirt. Once the thugs are crushed, the kids tie them all up, trying to save his own skin. The boss lies, claiming Shiik brainwashed them into robbing the poor sailors. But with Raven's deadly blade at his throat, the coward finally cracks, spilling the location of Shik's hostage friend. Later, Yoki and the squad arrive at the thugs' hideout, discovering a highly suspicious, trembling crate. Raven boils with rage. Did they really cram the poor mermaid in there like cheap cargo? He rips it open to save her. As the lid pops, a mermaid bursts out, but her tail miraculously turned into human legs. Happiness quickly covers the naked girl, who introduces herself as Msiki. Soon, the party escorts Msiki back to Shik's cave, where the two share a tearful, relieved hug. Msiki and Shik deeply thank our heroes for saving them, and sing a beautiful melody of pure gratitude. Once the enchanting song ends, they prepare to return home, but Raven steps forward, taking a knee before Shik to sincerely apologize for his past cruelty. Shik smiles warmly, accepting it with a sweet kiss on his cheek before diving into the sea with Msiki. Once they vanish, Happiness trembles with explosive jealousy. She blasts Yoki straight into the dirt, sneaks right up to Raven, and fiercely plants a kiss of her own, face down in the dirt. Yoki screams in total shock, crying that he missed the spicy drama. Later, Teal brings Yoki a direct message from Cecilia. He thanks her for working on her day off. But Teal admits her real motive was just to see Guy in his room, oblivious. Yoki nods and steps out, wondering why she acts so mysteriously. Once the door clicks, he hears Teal squealing with absolute joy. Proud of her perfect poker face, she happily reveals a bag of magic crystals for Guy, but he gently scolds her to prioritize her own well-being over his. Soon after, Yoki arrives at Cecilia's grand mansion, sitting down for an awkward tea date. He throws out some jokes about Teal, but suddenly his mind goes completely blank, zero game. After stammering through some weak compliments about CST, he entirely chickens out and flees the estate. Outside, Yoki is thrilled just to speak with Cecilia, yet agonizingly wonders if these basic hangouts are his absolute limit. Frustrated by this romantic wall, Yoki desperately calls Duke for dating advice. Duke bluntly points out that Yoki has literally no other friends, leaving Yoki humiliated but unable to deny it. Yoki then nervously confesses he has been using an invisibility spell to hide shadows near Cecilia's mansion. He desperately hopes to catch a rare glimpse of his ultimate crush. Yoki suddenly remembers watching Cecilia secretly, training alongside Seek, completely blown away by her hidden dedication. But Duke is absolutely terrified. His friend is literally committing a crime by trespassing on private turf. He lets out a heavy sigh, realizing just how pathetic Yoki has become. Duke blatantly calls him a complete coward, mocking his supposed undying love. He sharply asks if Yoki actually wants to stay a pathetic tea buddy forever. If he wants any real romance, he must step up his game. But first, he demands Yoki stop creeping around like a stalker. Yoki quickly surrenders as they keep arguing. Just then, Makana casually strolls past them. Duke instantly snatches her, forcing her right into Yoki's love crisis. He quickly bails, leaving them entirely alone. Soon after, he casually tosses Raven into the chaotic mix. Raven stubbornly keeps writing on his notepad, annoying Makana, who begs him to actually speak. But holding a petty grudge from earlier, he fiercely chooses pure silence. Giving up, Makana finally spills Cecilia's secrets. She drops a bomb. Without Cecilia, the mighty hero party would have crumbled. Yoki assumes they took too much battle damage, but Makana reveals the real nightmare was way worse. They were constantly swarmed by Yuga's rabid fangirls or ruined by Raven, and Makana's absolute refusal to communicate. Yet, like a true saint, Cecilia always stepped into the chaos, cooling their boiling tempers effortlessly. Plus, she carried the mountain of party paperwork. Yoki instantly roasts Makana for dumping her chores onto Cecilia. Both Makana and Raven quickly defend themselves, claiming they divided the labor. Raven handled the cooking duties, while the kitchen disaster Makana did other chores. Yoki squints, questioning what Yuga actually did. She admits the hero was assigned to gather ingredients, but that idiot only attracted disasters, making him completely dead weight. Makana brags about managing their intel alongside Cecilia. Oh, and Cecilia managed the entire treasury too. Hearing this, Yoki bluntly states that Yuga was utterly useless. Makana awkwardly avoids eye contact, though she defends his pure intentions. Even his worst messes came from a good heart. Without his blinding optimism, their legendary party would have utterly failed. Then Yoki snaps back to reality, needing strictly Cecilia lore. After diving deep into her past, the duo finally finishes their info dump. But wait, Makana maliciously remembers Cecilia's legendary top-secret nickname. Yoki leans in, hooked. Makana flashes a wicked grin, teasing the hilarious title. Suddenly, a terrifying aura drops. Cecilia appears out of nowhere. Makana practically freezes in sheer mortal terror. How did she bypass their radar? Cecilia smoothly claims she just needed a tiny favor. With a truly demonic smile, she clamps onto Makana's trembling arm, ready to drag her to hell for gossiping. Flashing a polite farewell, the smiling demon vanishes with her screaming prey. Now alone, Raven frantically apologizes to Yoki. He strictly refuses to write that cursed nickname on his notepad. Yoki nods in understanding, and Raven leads him straight to the town orphanage. He reveals this is Cecilia's secret sanctuary. The joyful kids notice the duo. The kids instantly swarm Raven, calling him the cold-blooded swordsman. Yoki blinks at the edgy title, totally confused. Raven chuckles, explaining it is his given alias. As the children happily drag Raven away, some orphans ask Yoki why the Holy Mother hasn't visited them today. He realizes they mean Cecilia. Later, as the two walk under the evening sky, Raven explains his origin. Since he rarely speaks and refuses to take lives in battle, The orphans named him the cold-blooded swordsman who sheds neither tears nor blood. He then drops more lore, revealing Yuga is called the Wandering Hero, while Makana is stuck as the Eternal Friend. Yoki silently pities her friend's own fate, but questions Cecilia's divine, Holy Mother title. Raven smirks, keeping his lips sealed tight. He claims Yoki must discover the truth himself. Raven murmurs, wondering how Yoki will react once her dark secrets are exposed. Yoki demands answers, but the swordsman shifts gears, asking about Yoki's next big move. Yoki admits he is desperate to conquer Cecilia's heart, but lacks a plan. Raven casually suggests teaming up for quests. A brilliant spark ignites in Yoki's eyes. Channeling his inner Manhwa protagonist, he plots a daring scheme to drag her into extreme danger, purely to play the heroic savior. The very next morning, Yoki eagerly waits for his beloved in the plaza. Instead, Makana crashes the party. Raven secretly deployed her as a chaperone. Yoki groans at the ultimate third-wheel block, ignoring his glaring eyes. Makana asks how he intends to woo the Saintess. Smirking, Yoki boasts about dragging Cecilia to a haunted mansion swarming with vicious undead. Makana bursts out laughing, calling it the absolute perfect hunting ground. Yoki looks baffled. He wanted to paralyze her with fear so she would cling. To him, Makana violently shakes him, screaming that Cecilia is a top-tier priestess whose divine magic literally obliterates undead monsters. Furious at his hollow brain, Makana brutally roasts Yoki's terrible planning. She orders him to actually study his future bride's true powers. She commands Yoki to take the vanguard alongside Cecilia, promising to provide ranged support from the shadows. Yoki firmly nods, realizing this strategy might actually save his romance. Just then, Cecilia arrives, bringing happiness along as extra backup. With the party fully assembled, Yoki marches them toward the cursed estate. The second they breach the doors, Yoki and Happiness sprint ahead like eager rookies. Makana violently yanks them back by their collars. She reminds Yoki to let Cecilia shine first, so he can swoop in later. Yoki adjusts his stance, sticking close to Cecilia, while kicking Happiness to the rear guard. Stepping into the gloomy halls, a rotten skeleton horde attacks. Cecilia raises her hands, vaporizing them instantly with a radiant holy circle. But a massive second wave erupts. Yoki unleashes a surging water rope, securely binding the bony monsters. With the targets restrained, Cecilia mercilessly purifies them all to ash. Panicking over her mana drain, Yoki swiftly offers a flask to rehydrate her, pushing deeper into the abyss. The squad flawlessly exterminates every last creeping terror. Finally, they stand before the ominous doors of the throne room. Sensing the boss monster ahead, they bravely storm into the grand throne room, finding the skeletal monarch seated proudly with a crown upon his skull. Yoki wonders if this boss monster is actually a massive threat, but Cecilia clarifies his strength is shockingly basic. The real danger of these kings lies strictly in their high intellect, used to command brainless mobs. Realizing this undead king is completely harmless, Yoki smirks and recklessly challenges him. The annoyed king awakens from the noise, ordering his undead army to crush him. However, Yoki casually notes he already obliterated every single soldier. Forced to act, the king draws his rusty blade. As he clumsily swings his sword, Yoki flashes forward. He ruthlessly kicks the crown straight off his skull, mocking his pathetic display. Terrified, the skeleton scrambles for the crown, cradling it like the most precious treasure on earth. Even Yoki's own loyal party members find this cruel, pitying the defenseless dead man. Watching from nearby, the furious undead king snaps over his desecrated crown, fueled by raw rage. He blindly attacks again, but Yoki is totally done with these games and casually disarms him. The broken king finally realizes he has truly lost, collapsing to his bony knees, while Mako wonders if the skeleton will surrender. The king just tragically clutches his crown. Yoki orders Cecilia to purify the beast, so she steps forward softly. After approaching the undead king, she gently asks about his obsession with the crown. The king admits it holds special meaning, though his rotted mind forgets why. Cecilia realizes he must have been a noble ruler who loved his people. She kindly offers to send him to the afterlife with the crown he cherishes. Seeing her gentle warmth, Yoki remembers the exact feeling of her fated first meeting in the demon palace. Cecilia then channels huge mana, casting the divine heavens rondo spell. It summons a blinding holy light above the skeleton king. This sacred glow allows him to peacefully ascend to the heavens. However, once the massive spell is complete, Cecilia stumbles from the severe magical backlash. Makana scolds her for using such high-tier magic, But Yoki quickly steps in. To calm things down, he orders Makana and Happiness to scout the rest of the eerie mansion, secretly creating a perfect chance to be alone with Cecilia. Once alone, Yoki asks if she can manage to walk with his support or needs to be carried out, panting heavily from mana drain. Cecilia nearly faints and asks for support. Yoki gently pulls her up, confused by her reckless mana use. Cecilia whispers she simply couldn't abandon the king's precious crown. Suddenly, she completely loses her balance. Yoki realizes she's just acting tough and definitely can't walk at all. He instantly scoops her into a bridal carry, leaving Cecilia blushing furiously. The hero safely carries her straight out of the mansion to their carriage. When Makana and Happiness finally return from patrol, they catch Yoki and Cecilia blushing and avoiding eye contact. Heading home, Yoki asks Makana if he did a good job today. She smiles warmly, but she refuses to grade his performance. Yoki is clueless, but Makana knows her meddling would only limit him. Smiling, she thinks back, recalling how valiantly he rescued Cecilia. She proudly praises Yoki for giving his absolute all to save others. Turning to leave, she quietly sighs, feeling totally left behind in the romance race. The next morning, Yoki visits Cecilia's grand estate. Blushing slightly, she brings up his orphanage trip. She desperately begs Yoki to keep her secret nickname hidden. He instantly swears absolute silence. Still, Yoki is insanely curious why she is so flustered over a simple name and demands its origin story. Cecilia hesitates, but decides to just rip the bandage off. Taking a breath, she explains that back in the hero party, Yuga constantly praised her stellar cooking and care, treating her like the squad's ultimate mom. Soon, Yuga began calling her mom, mortifying her completely. This spread until even the orphans started calling her mother too. Hearing this ridiculously wholesome and silly origin story, Yoki bursts into uncontrollable laughter. Days later, Guy randomly begs Yoki for a job. Utterly sick of being a lazy freeloader, stunned, Yoki wonders if he somehow made the demon feel unwanted, but Guy quickly clarifies that he just wants to earn his keep for Teal's sake. He reveals that Teal spends her hard-earned cash on his magic ore daily, so he desperately wants to repay her deep kindness. Yoki nods, seeing the gargoyle's blazing resolve, and agrees to secure him real work. But when they hit the Adventurer Guild, Yoki rocking his Black Thunder persona with Guy wearing a terrifying, demonic mask, the receptionist nearly flatlines, paralyzed with fear. She shrieks for Clayman to handle these nightmare clients. Sighing heavily, he steps out from the back. Clayman whines about being interrupted from critical business, but the receptionist exposes he was just enjoying his wife's home-cooked lunch. Blushing hard, Clayman finally gets down to business and asks Yoki's purpose. Guy boldly demands to be an adventurer, so Clayman nods, instantly registering him before the shell-shocked receptionist. With Guy's shiny new guild card, Yoki takes him out into the bustling city for new weapons and gear. Guy wonders why he cannot just use his demonic magic. Yoki strictly reminds him to keep his dark identity hidden. Come morning, Yoki returns to the guild with Guy to snatch up some lucrative beginner quests for the rookie, but Clayman instantly stops him, warning Yoki that a very special VIP is waiting. Yoki cautiously slips into the back of the Frazed guild room and finds Cecilia waiting. Despite his flawless edgy disguise, Cecilia instantly calls his name, and Yoki completely folds. Shocked, he asks how she pierced his perfect cover. Cecilia laughs, explaining Sophia leaks everything about the Black Swordsman's wild exploits, fully aware of Yoki's reckless antics. Sick with worry, Cecilia rushed straight to the guild to check on him. Yoki quickly promises he is just securing a job for Guy, making her finally breathe easy, but she points at his dramatic hero outfit, embarrassed. He admits he is just trying to match Guy's intense vibe. Smiling warmly, Cecilia offers to help tackle their first quests. Yoki protests, but she refuses to trust him alone with a total newbie. Teaming up, the epic trio grabs a quest to find a cat mission, but meeting the client goes south when Yoki's terrifying aura spooks them. Stepping up, the ever-calm Cecilia gently asks how the poor pet vanished. With careful strokes, she sketches out the furry runaway using their details, showing Yoki and Guy. Meanwhile, Yoki sniffs the air, memorizing the feline scent lingering on the owners. As Cecilia wraps up, Guy scratches his head over where to begin. Yoki smirks, noting that most civilians would blindly ask around the streets or beg the local guards. Not him. Shifting into his hero gear, he leaps roof to roof, his demonic senses tracking the trail perfectly. He easily spots the pet in a dark alley, chilling with a stray friend. It hisses fiercely at him, so he uses a gentle slumber spell, returning both kitties to the overjoyed family. He urges them to adopt the stray too. With their very first commission flawlessly cleared, Yoki is hyped to rush another, but Cecilia quickly shuts that down, reminding, too, the true goal is teaching Guy the ropes of adventuring alone, rather than speedrunning quests using overpowered demonic hacks. Realizing his blunder, Yoki backs off, letting Guy take the absolute lead this time. Soon enough, they enter a lush forest where Guy forages for herbs. Yoki firmly warns him against overharvesting, keeping the gathering strictly to mission needs. Next up, wiping out a filthy goblin horde lurking within the deep woods. Cecilia worries about stepping in, but the fearsome demon effortlessly slaughters the low-tier trash mobs. Victorious, they march straight back to the guild, where Clayman officially hands Guy his hard-earned silver. Gripping those coins, Guy's heart swells with pride as a truly productive member of society. Thinking of Teal bleeding herself dry every single day, despite her painful illness, he swears to grind endlessly to protect her future. Cecilia and Yoki cheer him on, with Yoki offering his epic backup for future raids, but Guy politely declines, craving the solo grind now that he is entirely confident in navigating this sprawling fantasy city. Yoki nods in deep respect as Guy walks away to forge his own heroic legacy. With the rookie gone, Yoki turns to bid Cecilia farewell, but she suddenly asks about his next move, and Yoki drops a bomb. He is tackling an A-rank quest solo. Without missing a beat, Cecilia demands to tag along. Yoki instantly panics at the romantic tension of a duo quest and desperately spits out lame excuses to deter her. But Cecilia is too stubborn to quit, claiming her schedule is wide open for a grand adventure. Grasping at straws, Yoki points out her holy church robes, totally impractical for dangerous travel. Cecilia simply nods, slipping away only to throw on a remarkably agile adventurer disguise. Fully geared up, she is more than ready to stick by Yoki's side. Later, the dynamic duo marches toward their high-stakes destination. Cecilia recalls Clayman's glowing smile when they grab this tough mission. Yoki casually explains that A-rank quests are absolute hell. Yet, he yawns, finding this specific one too boring. Cecilia instantly scolds the battle-crazed Yoki, schooling him that mapping out uncharted ruins is legendary archaeological work, still itching for a fight. Yoki prays they will battle exotic monsters, but Cecilia firmly warns him to focus purely on exploring. Then, a sudden realization hits her. This quest came from a VIP client. The guild clearly placed immense faith in Yoki's skills. Hearing this, his entire aura shifts, taking the mission seriously. As dusk falls, Cecilia points out the late hour. They establish a night camp. A warm fire crackles to life as Cecilia begins cooking. Meanwhile, Yoki panics, flustered to be totally alone with her. His solution? Hide behind his mask like a shield, channeling the absolute confidence of his shadow persona. Yoki casts a massive protective barrier, securing their camp from lurking threats. He then hands her a massive sack of wild, foraged ingredients. Cecilia is absolutely stunned by his blazing speed, yet questions why the mask stays on in private. Panicking, Yoki quickly spins up, excuse, claiming absolute professionalism must be maintained until the mission's end. To prove his point, he slightly unseals the mask's mouth, showing he can dine in disguise. But Cecilia firmly rejects this absurd, stubborn act. Defeated by her pout, Yoki reluctantly removes the foolish mask. With his face revealed, Cecilia gently serves a steaming bowl of stew. One bite is all it takes. Heavenly flavors explode in his mouth, and he ravenously devours it. Suddenly aware of his embarrassing, beast-like display before Cecilia, he chugs the rest and frantically snaps the mask back into place. Desperate to escape, he suggests an early bedtime. Confused, she questions the sudden rush, feeling a pang of guilt. He softly asks if her body aches from their intense journey. Instantly, Cecilia drops her sweet act, igniting with an overpowering, smug aura. She loudly proclaims her legendary status as a core hero's party member, fated to crush the demon lord himself. A petty quest like this, mere child's play. Yoki is left completely speechless by her ego. Blushing, Cecilia's facade shatters, shyly admitting she was merely mocking his cool persona. Soon, they both settle in for the night. As silence falls, Cecilia's mind drifts back to a royal summons regarding a heavy marriage proposal she had fiercely declined, claiming she lacked the maturity to wed. They The king's piercing gaze questioned if her refusal was secretly for Yoki, but Cecilia flawlessly played the fool. Yet, the king's grave tone revealed that this grand offer came from the heir of a supreme, unmatched empire, making rejection dangerously impossible. Swallowed by these heavy thoughts, she drifts into slumber. At daybreak, the duo finally reaches the ancient ruins, stepping into the abyss. Cecilia summons a mystical grimoire, unleashing a radiant orb to pierce the gloom. She steps up to lead, but Yoki instantly blocks her path, taking the vanguard. Pouting, she argues his explosive power might collapse the dungeon. She boasts she can easily slaughter any minor beasts lurking ahead, but Yoki hits her with a cool smirk, vowing absolute control over his destructive aura. Taking the absolute front line, he pushes deeper, deep within the shadows. Yoki's sharp senses suddenly lock onto a deadly swarm of beasts ahead, while Cecilia gasps. He moves like a lethal phantom, staring down the monstrous horde. Cecilia panics, whispering for a tactical retreat since crowd control is impossible, but Yoki fearlessly steps forward, gently blinding her eyes before casting a devastating illusion sphere. As it drops, the monsters swarm the trap. Cecilia whines about being blind, but Yoki shields her eyes as they push through the chaotic room. After escaping, Cecilia begs to know what epic magic he unleashed. He calmly reveals it was an illusion sphere, a trap that paralyzes victims with visions of their deepest desires. Yoki secretly admits to himself that his ultimate vision would be Cecilia, while poor Raven would crave pure joy. Curious, Cecilia ponders her own deepest desire. To Yoki's absolute dismay, she joyfully concludes she'd see a giant, delicious cake, crushed that he lost to a baked good. Yoki swallows his pride and pushes deeper into the ancient ruins in total silence. Finally, they hit the deepest chamber, only to find an utterly barren space. Yoki is devastated. Where is the epic boss monster? Where is the legendary loot? But Cecilia is thrilled, happily logging the ultra-rare magical mushrooms thriving in the dark. Quest complete. They take a hidden exit. Out. Boom. A breathtaking paradise of crystal streams and vibrant emerald flora, soaking in the majestic view. Cecilia realizes the sun is setting, prompting a tactical retreat to their old camp before braving the journey back to the guild. Morning breaks, and our duo marches back to headquarters. Yoki immediately boasts about their epic saga to Clayman, but Cecilia swiftly shoves him aside, dropping her flawless research on the desk. Reviewing the data, Clayman's eyes sparkle with absolute joy. Detailed intel on ancient zones is priceless. He dramatically slaps a massive, heavy bag of gold down. Yoki loses his mind with greed, demanding an epic celebration feast. Cecilia agrees, but strictly orders him home first to strip off that utterly ridiculous costume. But wait, arriving at Yoki's base, the front door is mysteriously wide open. Inside, pure terror. Teal lies paralyzed on the floor, a chilling, psychotic grin plastered on her face as she begs for her darling Guy. She rises, like a literal demon from a nightmare, demanding they reveal the location of her precious lord. Just before a massacre breaks out, Guy casually strolls in. In a flash, Teal's murderous aura vanishes, and she tackles Guy with overwhelming affection. Sweating, Guy apologizes for vanishing, revealing he officially leased his own city flat. He proudly claims his new rank as a solo adventurer, begging Teal to stop wasting her hard-earned coin on rare, magical ores for his sake. Teal stubbornly refuses, passionately screaming that her wallet belongs to true love. She then violently drags him off to his new lair, leaving Yoki and Cecilia absolutely dumbfounded. With the chaos gone, Yoki steps before his bedroom mirror. The devastating truth hits him like a truck. He looks like an absolute clown, crushed by sheer cringe. He writhes on the floor in terminal embarrassment, pitying his shattered ego. Cecilia steps in to heal his pride, sweetly offering to don her own disguise for future raids, alongside the legendary Black Swordsman. Boom! The ultimate confidence buff. Yoki's delusion reactivates instantly. He boldly vows to unleash even more epic power for her very soon. Flash forward a few days. Yoki and Duke grab lunch with the gloomy Raven. But wait, Raven looks completely drained of life energy, like his soul got crushed. Sensing the deep trauma, Yoki connects the dots. The dark mage is suffering from a lethal dose of happiness. Raven darkly nods. Silence lingers. Duke is totally baffled. He still has not asked her out on a date. But Raven and Yoki agree that is way too bold of a move for their current dynamic. So, they call the girls to give our boy Raven one more shot with happiness. Yoki is curious how Duke got so close to Irene, so he explains she is just helping him handle his heavy management duties. Then, he announces it is time to go, and the whole crew heads straight toward their favorite hangout. Duke reveals that Happiness wants to check out a new tourist hotspot, but Cecilia instantly hesitates. Even Raven urgently tries to suggest going anywhere else, but Happiness coldly shoots down every single one of his excuse. Since she refuses to budge, Raven physically blocks the path to stop their advance. Cecilia jumps in to help him block the way, but Yoki and Happiness bulldoze right past them to reach the tourist spot. Right there stand 4 epic statues of the heroes' party, built by the absolute order of the king to honor their victory. In reality, Raven and Cecilia were just incredibly embarrassed to see statues of themselves. That is exactly why they kept begging to go literally anywhere else. After the statue reveal, the crew grabs sweet ice cream to chill. The other 4 members tactfully sit on separate benches to give Raven precious alone time with Happiness. But suddenly, some knights approach their off-duty captain. The smug vice captain claims he finally heard Raven speak for the very first time. So, he and his bitter soldiers mockingly corner him. The pathetic soldiers roar with laughter, but Happiness fiercely stands up to defend her man. Duke also steps in, warning the vice captain to back off. But the spiteful soldier just mocks Raven for hiding behind other people's backs. Happiness is furious, but Raven is already deeply shattered by those cruel words. Before anyone can grab him, he turns away and flees the scene. Yoki and Duke immediately give chase, but they lose Raven as he sprints through the city at blinding speed. Searching the streets, Yoki is stunned that Raven was hurt enough to abandon their hangout so abruptly. Duke explains that the vice captain built an entire toxic faction to oppose Raven, just because he hates serving a mute commander. It is a living nightmare for our captain to face. Soon, the duo spots Raven hiding away in a gloomy alley. They gently ask him to come back, but a broken Raven doubts anyone even wants him around. Duke demands if he is really going to abandon Happiness over some pathetic bullies, raging at his captain for running away like a coward. Once Duke walks off, Yoki sits beside Raven, softly asking why he is letting this crush his soul. Raven sighs that he is nothing but a burden to Happiness, recalling she holds a heavy secret she wants to share with him. Since he is constantly bullied by everyone, Raven fears he will never be strong or worthy enough to handle her. Truth, Raven sighs, wishing he possessed the same boldly delusional, unshakable confidence that Yoki has. Hearing this, Yoki activates his delusion mode, revealing his supreme confidence is just a desperate mask to hide his own deep flaws. So, Raven should not idolize him at all. Yoki orders his friend to stand tall, feeling revived by Yoki's theatrical pep talk. Raven finds his resolve and agrees to return, back with the anxious group. An apologetic Raven bows his head for ditching them so abruptly. Happiness warmly steps forward, forgiving his mistake while Duke decides it's time for a group shopping trip. Strolling down to the bustling market, Raven pours his heart out to Happiness. Even if he falls short right now, he swears to become a man worthy of her side. But just days later, Happiness vanishes from the mansion without a trace. Cecilia alerts Yoki, gathering the whole crew in total panic. She reveals a single, mysterious letter that Happiness left behind. Yoki reads the cryptic message, which only demands they meet her in a forest a few days later, though she completely left out exactly which forest. Duke instantly recognizes the location, while Raven is eaten up by worry. His absolute trust in Happiness tells him she has a reason. Later on, Yoki pulls Duke and Seek aside for a highly secretive meeting. With Happiness stepping from the shadows, she drops a bombshell. She'll reveal her true identity to Raven. Duke gives a grim warning. If Raven rejects her true nature as a demon, her romance is completely doomed. She nods, fully aware. But Duke pushes even further. Once Raven knows the truth, he'll definitely dig into her background. This means Duke, Seek, and Yoki might also have their true identities exposed, shattering their peaceful city lives forever. Yet, they are fully prepared to risk it, all just to see Happiness truly smile. Seek wishes her the absolute best of luck, bringing tears of joy to her eyes. Touched by the support, Yoki adds his own blessing, earning her deep gratitude. Meanwhile, as Raven patrols the city, the arrogant vice captain and his thugs block his path. Unsurprisingly, the fool starts running his mouth again. But this time, Raven glares, asking why he insists on digging his own grave. When the coward refuses to apologize, Raven's patience snaps. He drops the nice guy act, threatening to strip his rank if he doesn't kneel and properly address his commander. Utterly terrified, The vice captain hastily bows his head in submission. One agonizing month later, the fateful day, finally, arrives for Raven to meet Happiness. Cecilia is paralyzed with anxiety over their action. Reunion. But Yoki assures her they must trust fate. Once Yoki leaves the mansion, Celia corners Cecilia about her impending arranged marriage. Has she told Yoki yet? Cecilia shakes her head, refusing to add to Yoki's heavy burden regarding Happiness's dangerous secret. However, Celia smartly points out that Yoki will definitely find out soon, especially since her suitor is already in the Prost capital. Cecilia fiercely declares she only met the man on the king's strict orders, and she'll crush his hopes the second he dares to step near her. Celia teasingly asks if this fierce loyalty is all for Yoki, but Cecilia stubbornly pretends it's purely for her own freedom. Desperate, Cecilia begs her mother to keep this cursed marriage completely hidden from Yoki. Celia just smirks, seeing right through her daughter's massive crush. As Cecilia stammers out excuses, her mother hits the nail on the head. Why hide the marriage so desperately if you don't have feelings for him? Chuckling, she leaves her blushing daughter alone to face her true emotions. Meanwhile, as Yoki patrols the city, he bumps into a dangerously silent Raven, radiating a terrifying, murderous aura. Without a single word, Raven tosses one of Happiness's feathers at Yoki's feet. The devastating truth is out. He knows her demonic identity, dragging Yoki into a dark, secluded forest. Raven coldly declares he's going to slaughter him. Though deeply disappointed by this, Yoki is already braced for Raven's deadly rage. As Raven lunges for the kill, Yoki parries his, counters with his own strike. Yoki questions this extreme aggression. So, Raven declares he deserves brutal punishment for hurting his precious Happiness. Launching airborne, he fires a lethal magic blade at Yoki. After the blade shatters the earth, thick smoke swallows Yoki. Yet, he emerges unharmed and traps Raven in an earthen prison. But Raven easily shatters the dusty cage. Raven charges fiercely at Yoki again, leaving Yoki genuinely shocked at his massive growth. As they violently clash midair, Raven is horrified to see Yoki's body morphing into a terrifying demonic form. He instantly recalls the Demon Lord's palace, wondering if this is the exact same Yoki. Yoki ignores the question, demanding what he did to Happiness. However, Raven also stays silent, lunging for another strike. This time, Yoki swiftly dodges, warping right behind him. A devastating kick sends Raven flying, denying any chance to recover. Yoki unleashes an endless barrage of dark attacks. Once Raven is crushed, Yoki tells him to surrender. Yet, the battered Raven refuses to quit. Baffled, Yoki wonders why he is being so stubborn. He asks again why he is fighting this hard. Raven finally snaps, roaring that he is taking revenge for Happiness's sake after Yoki ruthlessly plucked her feathers. Raven explains that Happiness herself ordered this beatdown, leaving Yoki completely dumbfounded. As Raven raises his blade to resume the fight, a panicked Yoki screams he will actually die if hit. Raven offers to strike him using the Argive blunt back of his sword, which is completely pointless since his weapon is double-edged. Finally, Yoki kicks the sword away, and Raven gives up on this duel. Knowing she is nearby, Yoki calls out for Happiness. Sure enough, she pops out from a tree, playfully taunting Yoki, who explodes in fury at being played. After forcing Raven and Happiness to apologize for their prank, Yoki asks how their romantic relationship is progressing. Raven explains he was taken to a bizarre forest by Duke and left totally alone. There, he softly called out to Happiness, who emerged and thanked him for coming. Raven wondered why Happiness chose this exact forest as their meeting spot. She revealed it as a special place where her long journey began, so she wanted it to end here too. While Raven sensed the location's heavy significance, Happiness confessed how happy he truly makes her. Blushing, she hoped they could spend the rest of their lives together. Raven warmly nodded, stepping toward her. However, Happiness begged him to wait, finally unveiling her true, magnificent harpy form. Seeing her wings, Raven was left completely stunned. A terrified Happiness admitted she was afraid of ruining their bond, but she was entirely exhausted from faking her true identity every day. Knowing this absolute truth could ruin things forever, she decided this forest was the perfect final meeting spot. Raven stood silently for a moment, apologized to Happiness, and suddenly pulled her into a passionate embrace. As Happiness went dead silent, Raven confessed he felt awful for neglecting her true feelings and deep needs. Happiness was just thrilled he was accepting her for who she truly was. Raven believed everything would be fine since they deeply loved each other, as Happiness tearfully agreed. The lovebirds shared a tender moment in the forest together. Suddenly, Yoki cuts the cheesy story short, sick of hearing about their sickly sweet romance. He screams at the couple for beating him up despite bagging a happy ending. They stay totally silent, but Yoki isn't letting them off that easy. Instead, he binds them with chains and seals them to the ground for some forced quality bonding time. The very next day, Yoki drops by Cecilia's place. Thrilled his friends, romance blossomed, yet Cecilia seems zoned out, totally ignoring the juicy gossip. Instead, she drops the bomb that her schedule is packed, meaning their daily hangouts are on pause. Clueless Yoki thinks it's totally fine, since he's leaving town for Yuga's quest anyway. Instantly, Cecilia flares with pure jealousy. How can he replace their precious time with another girl like Yuga? Before Yoki can even defend himself, Raven and Happiness crash through the doors, completely in the dark about their door. Epic prank. Cecilia stands baffled as Yoki bails out the window. Raven reaches for Happiness, and she tightly grips his hand as they leap out to hunt Yoki down. Fleeing for his life, our hero turns back, wishing Happiness the absolute best in love. Smiling, Raven finally admits they owe Yoki big time for playing Cupid. That wraps up episode 11. Smash subscribe for the next thrilling manhwa chapter right now.